The story of the Celtiberians begins thousands of years ago, in lands that were as rugged and wild as the people who inhabited them. Between steep mountains and vast plains, in what is now Spain, there lived tribes with a strength rooted in both their hearts and the land beneath their feet. They were warriors and farmers, dreamers and creators. Fiercely independent and brave, these people lived with the pulse of the earth and sky, drawing their stories, beliefs, and lives from the mysteries of nature itself. Their ancestors, like an ancient river carving its way through the mountains, arrived here over countless generations, each leaving a trace that would shape the people who came after them. From the distant north, a group of people who we now call the Celts began migrating south, bringing with them their way of life, their myths, and their fierce love for freedom. They had a spirit wild as the rivers and were known for their warriors, who fought not just for survival but for honor, family, and kin. Their belief in the divine power of nature and spirits made them revere trees, rivers, and mountains, seeing in them ancient forces that could bless or destroy. Meanwhile, the people of the Iberian Peninsula were also growing in their own unique way. They had a culture shaped by the sun-baked land, the dry winds, and the steady beat of the seasons. They were farmers and shepherds, builders and traders. Theirs was a culture deeply connected to their ancestral lands, a world where gods were found in every hill, every storm, and every grove. They, too, believed in spirits but saw them with different eyes, in ways specific to the rhythms of their home. When these two cultures met, something remarkable happened. Instead of one overtaking the other, they merged, forming a new identity that was greater than either alone. They became the Celtiberians, people bound by both Celtic ferocity and Iberian tenacity. From the Celts, they took the fire of the warrior, the fierce courage to defend family and land at any cost, and the songs of heroes that were sung around crackling fires at night. From the Iberians, they took the heart of the land, the patience of the farmer, the wisdom of the shepherd, the ability to work with the land instead of just taking from it. These people lived in fortified villages on high, defensible hills, where they could see both friend and enemy coming from miles away. Each village was its own kingdom, a tightly knit community led by chieftains who protected their people with honor and guided them with wisdom. And every village had its own stories, tales of heroes, of gods and spirits, of wars fought for freedom and dignity. These legends were passed down from generation to generation, not written on paper but carried in memory, guarded by the elders and storytellers who kept the essence of their people alive with every word. For the Celtiberians, life was not easy. They faced harsh winters, blazing summers, and the constant threat of rival tribes and invaders. But they stood unbreakable. Their warriors were as fierce as the mountain winds, fighting with short, deadly swords, their shields painted with symbols of protection and strength. They wore armor crafted from leather and metal, every piece a testament to the hands that made it, every weapon forged not just for battle but as an extension of their spirit. To be a Celtiberian warrior was to embrace both life and death, to carry the weight of the past and the hope of the future with every step. But they weren't just warriors. They were a people of profound faith, with rituals that wove them to the very fabric of the earth. They made offerings to the gods in sacred groves and left gifts in riverbanks for the spirits of the water, believing that life was a sacred gift and that every part of the world was alive. They believed that even after death, they would continue in some form, watching over their kin, living in the land they had loved, protecting the people they had fought for. From the Iberians, they learned to shape the land, to grow and harvest, and to build fortifications that could protect them in times of danger. Their villages were like stone guardians, sturdy and unyielding. They worked the earth and raised livestock, respecting the cycles of planting and harvesting, celebrating with feasts when the harvest was bountiful, and enduring the lean seasons with strength and patience. They took from the Celts the fierce pride and freedom, refusing to bow to any ruler or power they didn't choose for themselves. The Celtiberians were known to unite when threatened, gathering warriors from all villages to defend their lands with unmatched bravery. Legends tell of how they fought side by side, mothers and fathers, sons and daughters, uniting their strength in a bond that went beyond blood. To them, it was unthinkable to live under the rule of others. Their spirit was like a fire that would not be extinguished, even as they faced enemies stronger and more numerous. They fought not just with weapons, but with words and symbols, their language carved into stones, their symbols etched into their armor and jewelry. These symbols held meanings known only to their people, sacred signs that reminded them of who they were. For the Celtiberians, every part of life was connected: war, love, family, and the land they called home. It was a world where honor mattered, where promises were kept, where a life was not measured by wealth but by loyalty and bravery. Through the centuries, they grew, fought, and loved as one people, bound by traditions both old and new. They became legends even in their own time, stories of their courage spreading far beyond their lands. To those who knew them, the Celtiberians were more than warriors or farmers. They were living expressions of an ancient spirit, a blend of strength and tenderness, of battle scars and blessings from the earth. They saw life as both a gift and a test, knowing that every hardship they faced brought them closer to the world they loved. Each generation added to their identity, their myths growing like the trees in their sacred groves, their roots deep in the soil of the land they would never leave. Even today, their stories linger, like whispers carried on the wind over the hills and rivers where they once walked. The Celtiberians were more than a people. They were a heartbeat, an echo of the strength that comes from the land, the courage born from hardship, and the love for a world they cherished as sacred. In the end, they weren't defined by the Celts or the Iberians alone, but by the unity they found in each other, a unity that became legend and lives on in the spirit of those lands even now. The land of the Celtiberians was not just a place to live, it was part of their soul. Rolling hills, jagged mountains, deep valleys, and untamed rivers stretched across what we now know as Spain and Portugal, holding stories as ancient as the rocks themselves. For the Celtiberians, this land was alive, filled with secrets, mysteries, and powers that whispered to them in the wind and murmured through the streams. To walk these lands was to be connected with every ancestor who had walked before them, to feel in every step the courage, hardships, and joys of the people who called it home. Their world was wild and unforgiving. The Meseta, a vast central plateau surrounded by mountains, was the heartland of the Celtiberian tribes. Summers scorched the land, leaving it dry and cracked beneath a blazing sun, while winters came harsh and biting, winds sweeping down from the mountains to freeze the rivers and fields. The soil was stubborn, difficult to tame, but it was theirs. And so they worked it, every harvest a victory carved from the earth, every crop a gift from the gods they believed watched over them. In the north, the Celtiberian mountains loomed, with their steep cliffs and dense forests casting shadows over the valleys below. Wolves roamed these woods, fierce and elusive, their howls echoing through the hills on moonlit nights. To the Celtiberians, these creatures were more than animals. They were symbols of strength and survival, reminders of the fierce spirit required to thrive in such a place. The people who lived here developed a strength and resilience that mirrored the rugged cliffs and towering peaks around them. They carried this landscape within them, each heartbeat like the drum of rain on stone, each breath as fierce and alive as the forest air. Further south, the Celtiberian lands met the Iberian plains, where wide open spaces stretched out, dotted by scattered settlements and fortified hilltop villages. Here, the land was drier, the sun harsher. Fields of wheat and barley struggled to grow, yet the Celtiberians found ways to coax life from this seemingly barren earth. These southern plains taught them patience and determination, the need to respect the rhythms of the land. Here, they learned to watch the skies for signs, to listen to the earth, to plant and harvest with care, knowing that each seed they sowed held the potential to sustain them through winter's long, cold nights. The Celtiberians lived by the rivers that cut through their lands, rivers that brought life and connection. The Ebro, the Tagus, the Douro, these rivers were more than water. They were seen as the veins of the earth, carrying life through the land. The Celtiberians believed the rivers were protected by ancient spirits, watching over the waters that fed their crops and nourished their families. The people built their villages near these rivers, trusting in the constant flow to bring blessings and, at times, messages from the gods. When they fished or drew water, they did so with reverence, knowing that to take without gratitude would risk angering the spirits that gave them life. Across these lands stood the Celtiberian villages, each one a small fortress perched on high ground, overlooking the valleys and plains below. These hilltop settlements were not chosen at random. The people believed that height brought them closer to the gods, and that from such vantage points they could better protect their homes from invaders. The hills gave them security, and the view from the top offered a sense of freedom, of belonging to something vast and eternal. Standing at the edge of a cliff, looking out over miles of untouched land, they felt connected to every Celtiberian who had come before and every child who would come after. But the Celtiberian relationship with the land was not just practical. They believed that every tree, every stone, every gust of wind held a story, a spirit. Oak trees were sacred, symbols of strength and endurance. In their shade, they held gatherings, shared stories, and made decisions that would shape their futures. The yew tree, too, was revered, thought to connect the living and the dead, a reminder of the cycle of life that bound them to the land. Forests were not mere resources, but sacred groves, places where they could feel the presence of the gods. When they ventured into the woods, they did so with respect, understanding that these were ancient places, older than memory, powerful beyond comprehension. The mountains, with their peaks reaching toward the heavens, were seen as the home of gods and spirits, beings older and wiser than any human. These peaks were both beautiful and dangerous, often shrouded in mist that made them seem otherworldly. The Celtiberians would leave offerings at the mountain's edge, gifts of food or small tokens, to honor the spirits they believed dwelled within. The mountains were teachers, too, reminding them that life was not easy, that it required strength, sacrifice, and humility. Even the skies above held significance. They watched the stars as they traveled across the heavens, believing the patterns told stories, perhaps even guiding their lives. The sun and moon were like guardians, the sun fierce and unyielding, the moon softer, a gentle protector watching over them as they slept. They believed that the changing of seasons was a sign from the gods, a reminder of life cycles, birth, growth, death, and rebirth. Every storm that rolled in from the sea, every clap of thunder, every bolt of lightning was seen as a message from the divine. When thunder rumbled through the mountains, shaking the earth, the Celtiberians felt awe, for they believed they were hearing the voices of the gods. Rain was a blessing, a promise of life to their fields and forests, and drought a time of testing, a reminder of the delicate balance that held their world together. To the Celtiberians, their land was a living, breathing force, one that gave and took with equal power. It could be harsh and unforgiving, but it was also home, woven into their very existence. Every sunrise over the hills, every misty morning in the valleys, every chill of winter and warmth of summer was more than just part of the passing days. It was a reminder that they were part of something ancient, something that had been here long before them and would remain long after. The land was not just where they lived, it was who they were. In the heart of Celtiberian society, strength wasn't just measured in muscles or weapons. It was built on bonds as powerful as iron, woven into every family, every clan, every village. Life in their world was not lonely, each person was bound to their kin by ties of loyalty, blood, and honor. Every Celtiberian man, woman, and child was part of something much larger than themselves, a web of connections stretching back to ancient ancestors and forward to generations yet unborn. In their lives, every heartbeat, every choice, every breath was linked to those around them, to the land they cherished, and to the gods they worshipped. At the top of this world stood the chieftains, leaders chosen not just for their wisdom or courage, but for the respect they commanded. A chieftain wasn't merely a ruler. He or she was a protector, a guide, a figure whose words could rally warriors to fight or calm the anxious hearts of the people. Chieftains were fierce but fair, rulers who understood that power was not given to dominate but to serve. Every decision they made was for the people, for the future of their tribe. When they spoke, their voices carried the weight of generations, each word a promise to lead with honor and to guard their people with their very lives. These chieftains weren't alone in their power. By their side stood warriors, men and women whose souls were as strong as the swords they wielded, as steady as the shields they carried. To be a Celtiberian warrior was to embrace both life and death, to know that every battle could be their last, and yet to charge forward without fear. They fought for more than just survival, they fought for their families, their ancestors, and for the honor of their tribe. A A Celtiberian warrior's strength was not only in their physical might, but in the courage that burned like fire within them. Even as they faced enemies, their hearts beat with the unbreakable rhythm of home, of kin, of something worth every ounce of blood and sweat. Warriors were trained from a young age, taught not only the skill of the sword but the strength of the spirit. They learned discipline, loyalty, and the meaning of honor. They carried the hopes of their people into every battle, and each scar they bore was a mark of pride, a reminder of the strength it took to protect what mattered most. When they stood in formation, side by side, shields raised and hearts steady, they were more than individuals, they were one, bound together by oaths of loyalty and by the love that every Celtiberian felt for their people. The battlefield became sacred ground, a place where they would defend the lives and stories of their ancestors. Alongside the warriors and chieftains were the druids, mysterious and wise, keepers of knowledge that was whispered in the dark of night and woven into the fabric of the earth. Druids were the bridge between the world of the living and the spirits of the ancestors, those who could read the signs in the stars, understand the language of nature, and interpret the will of the gods. They were the healers, the counselors, the ones who held the secrets of life and death. People looked to them with awe and reverence, for their words held power, their presence a reminder that life was intertwined with forces beyond human understanding. Druids guided their people with ancient wisdom, sharing the knowledge of herbs that could heal, words that could calm, and rituals that could bring blessings. They were guardians of the past, keepers of the stories and songs that bound every Celtiberian to those who had come before. They were also protectors of the future, ensuring that the connection between the people and the gods remained strong. In every ritual they performed, every prayer they chanted, there was a promise to safeguard the spirit of the people and to keep the fires of knowledge burning for as long as the Celtiberians would walk the earth. Yet, for all their respect and awe, the druids, chieftains, and warriors were only parts of a larger whole. At the heart of Celtiberian life were the commoners, the people whose lives beat with the rhythm of the seasons, whose hands tilled the soil, herded the livestock, and made the villages alive with laughter, love, and hard work. The commoners were the foundation of society, the ones who passed down traditions through everyday life, teaching their children not just with words, but by example. Every meal shared, every fire kindled, every task completed was a reminder that life was precious and that each person played a role in keeping their world alive. Families were the most sacred bond in Celtiberian life. A family was a world unto itself, a place of safety, of shared laughter and tears. Parents taught their children the stories of the gods and ancestors, while grandparents passed down the skills and wisdom that had been given to them. These families were not isolated, they were part of clans, large, extended families united by blood and loyalty. Within each clan, there were ties that were as strong as iron, forged in the fires of shared experience and the love that bound every Celtiberian heart. To betray one's clan was unthinkable, for to do so would be to sever a piece of one's soul. When times of trouble came, when enemies gathered or hardships arose, the clans would unite into tribes, bound together by a fierce sense of belonging and by the oaths that each Celtiberian took to protect their people. In these times, every chieftain, warrior, druid, and commoner knew their place, each role essential, each person valued. The tribe was a force of unity, a family of families, one that could face any challenge because they knew that they were never alone. They were bound not just by blood, but by a love for their land, their gods, and each other that nothing could break. To be a Celtiberian was to understand that life was fragile, that every moment was a gift from the gods, and that each day could bring new trials. But it was also to know that, no matter what came, they were part of something eternal. They were the children of ancient traditions, protectors of a way of life that honored every person, from the chieftain to the youngest child. They were a people who knew that true strength came not from power or wealth, but from the unbreakable ties that held them together, ties woven through love, respect, and an unshakable belief in each other. In the end, Celtiberian society was built on bonds as old as time itself, ties that wrapped around every life like roots in the soil. Each person, from the chieftains who led to the druids who guided, from the warriors who protected to the commoners who labored, was part of a larger whole, a heartbeat that pulsed in every village, every clan, every tribe. They were a people who understood that honor was not just an idea but a way of life, that loyalty was not a burden but a gift. And they knew, with every fiber of their being, that as long as they stood together, they were unbreakable. In the Celtiberian world, stories were lifelines, binding each generation to the next, linking the living to the spirits of their ancestors, and keeping their culture alive. Long before words were carved in stone or painted on parchment, the Celtiberians had their storytellers, their bards. Bards were more than just entertainers. They were the guardians of the tribe's soul, carrying the voices of the past into the present and breathing life into memories that might otherwise have faded like mist in the morning sun. Around the fires in the heart of every Celtiberian village, families gathered as night fell, huddling close against the chill, the crackling flames casting shadows that danced like spirits on the faces of those listening. It was in these quiet hours, under the vast sky, that the bards began their songs and stories, each word holding the weight of ages. The children's eyes would grow wide as the tales unfolded, while the elders nodded, remembering their own childhoods when they, too, had heard the same stories. These tales were not just entertainment, they were the living history of the people, a way to remember who they were, where they came from, and what they stood for. The bards knew thousands of stories, each one etched into their memory with a care as tender as a mother's touch. There were songs of great heroes, warriors who had faced impossible odds to protect their people, who had looked death in the eye and fought with courage that echoed through generations. There were tales of love that crossed clan boundaries, stories of bravery that defied fate, and legends of gods who watched over them, offering guidance, strength, and warnings. These stories taught lessons, not just about valor but about kindness, loyalty, and honor. Each tale was a thread in the tapestry of their identity, woven by the voices of countless storytellers before them. Bards did not merely recite these stories, they lived them. Their voices rose and fell, sometimes barely a whisper, sometimes as powerful as thunder, guiding their listeners through the highs and lows of each tale. Their words were like magic, weaving pictures in the minds of the listeners, stirring their hearts, making them feel as if they were standing beside the heroes, walking through the sacred groves, facing the same struggles and joys. Bards were masters of their craft, shaping each story with emotion and rhythm, using repetition to ensure the details settled deeply into the memories of those who heard them. Every gesture, every pause, every shift in tone was carefully crafted to leave an impact that would last a lifetime. The Celtiberians believed that memory was a sacred trust. Writing was rare, a practice that came much later, and so they preserved their stories in minds and hearts. This oral tradition demanded discipline, training, and above all, a sense of devotion. Bards spent years perfecting their skills, training their minds to recall every detail, every verse. They passed on their knowledge to apprentices, young men and women who showed promise and dedication, ensuring that the stories would live on even when the bards themselves were gone. It was a weighty responsibility, but it was one they carried with pride. To be a bard was to hold the keys to the past, a role as important as any warrior, for without memory, without stories, the Celtiberians would be lost. It wasn't only in public gatherings that the stories were told. Parents, too, became storytellers for their children, passing on what they had learned. They shared these tales not just for the sake of tradition, but because the stories themselves had power. They gave comfort during hardship, courage in times of fear, and wisdom in moments of doubt. Even the simplest stories held pieces of truth that could guide a life. Mothers would hold their children close, whispering tales of fierce goddesses and brave warriors, instilling in them a sense of strength and purpose. Fathers would recount stories of clever heroes, teaching their sons and daughters that courage was not just in the body but in the mind and heart as well. Some stories were told only on special occasions, reserved for moments when the tribe needed to come together to remember its roots. During rites of passage, the bards would recount tales of ancestors who had faced similar trials, binding each new generation to those who had come before. These stories were like blessings, offering guidance and reassurance to those stepping into new roles within the tribe. In this way, storytelling became a ritual, a way to mark the moments that defined life's journey. The most powerful stories, though, were the ones that came from real life, tales of ancestors whose deeds still resonated through the ages. When a child asked about a scar on their father's arm, they might hear the story of a fierce battle, a struggle for survival, a reminder that bravery had a price. When an elder spoke of the past, their voice carried the weight of experience, their stories offering not just history but wisdom that could guide the future. These personal stories bound the Celtiberians to their family, to their clan, and to the land itself, reminding them that they were never alone, that they were part of something enduring and unbreakable. Over time, the stories themselves would change, adapting to the needs of the moment, the personalities of the bards who told them. But the heart of each tale, the truth that it carried, remained. In this way, storytelling was alive, evolving, yet always rooted in the traditions that had defined the Celtiberians for generations. Stories became anchors, a way to ground the people in a world that was always shifting, changing, and challenging them. As the Celtiberians faced invasions, hardships, and the pull of new ways of life, their stories grew even more essential. Every tale of struggle and resilience became a reminder of who they were, a call to hold fast to their heritage even as the world around them changed. In these moments, the bards' voices were like flames in the dark, their stories lighting the way, showing their people that no matter how much was taken from them, their spirit could never be broken. The stories lived because the people remembered, and the people remembered because the stories lived. It was a cycle that bound every Celtiberian to their past, a rhythm that pulsed in every heartbeat, every spoken word. For the Celtiberians, stories weren't simply tales, they were lifeblood, a way of holding on to something sacred, something that no conqueror, no hardship, could ever take away. The Celtiberians held a world of spirits, gods, and ancestors in every breath they took. For them, the land was alive, every river, mountain, and tree holding the essence of something sacred. Their gods were not distant beings, hidden away in unreachable realms. They were present in the very soil they walked upon, in the water they drank, in the air that filled their lungs. Faith was woven into life itself, as natural as the wind and as constant as the stars. At the heart of their beliefs stood gods and goddesses who watched over the people with both mercy and fierceness. There was no single all-powerful god. Instead, each god had their own domain, their own power that touched a different part of life. Some gods were protectors of the land, of fertility, of crops that fed the villages. Others ruled over the rain, the sun, the very elements that shaped daily life. There were gods of war, whose names were whispered before battle, and gods of love, who watched over the bonds of family and friendship. The people prayed to them with the faith that they were being heard, that the gods were part of the same earth, connected to them in ways beyond sight. The Celtiberians felt their gods' presence most in sacred places, groves of ancient oaks, clear springs, quiet caves where voices echoed with secrets. These places were more than spots on a map. They were alive, breathing, filled with energies that could heal, protect, or even punish. People would travel to these places not just for worship, but to feel closer to the gods themselves, to touch something divine. In these moments, with prayers murmured or chanted under their breath, they could sense the nearness of something powerful, something that gave them strength in a world where life was often harsh and uncertain. Rituals were woven into the Celtiberians' daily lives, small acts of reverence that connected them to the divine. Before planting crops, they offered thanks to the earth, placing small tokens into the soil in gratitude and hope. Before battles, warriors would prepare, not just sharpening swords and donning armor, but by honoring the gods who held their fates. With chants and symbols painted on their bodies, they prepared their spirits, trusting that whatever came, the gods would stand beside them. These acts were reminders that they were never alone, that the spirits of the world walked beside them, guarding and guiding their steps. The concept of an afterlife was as real to them as the life they lived. Death was not an end, but a passage, a crossing over into a world that existed parallel to their own. When someone passed, the mourning was mixed with reverence, knowing that they would soon walk among ancestors, their spirits joining those who had come before. In their minds, those who had left were not lost, they had simply returned to the embrace of the gods, to live forever in the spirit world. They believed that these ancestors could still see, could still hear, and sometimes could even intervene to help their descendants in moments of need. When children were born, the Celtiberians believed that the spirit of a loved one could be reborn, a circle that kept their people connected across the boundaries of life and death. In honoring the dead, they built cairns, raised stones, created mounds where the spirits could reside in peace. These sites became places of worship, where families would come to remember and feel the presence of those they had loved and lost. In the silence, they could feel the warmth of their ancestors' blessings, a reminder that the bond of family was unbreakable, even by death. The Druids were the guides in these spiritual practices, the keepers of wisdom that bound the people to their gods and the natural world. Druids knew the language of the sacred places, the prayers that would reach the gods, and the rituals that would keep balance in the world. They were healers, mediators, and interpreters of signs, each one trained in the ancient ways that had been handed down for generations. The people came to them in times of uncertainty, seeking advice on matters of life and death, for Druids held the secrets of the universe in their hearts, secrets entrusted to them by the gods themselves. When a child was born, the Druids would conduct ceremonies to bless the newborn, calling upon the gods to protect and guide this new life. At marriages, they would bless the union, asking the gods to grant strength, love, and fertility. And when death came, they led the rituals that would ease the spirit's passage to the next world. For every stage of life, there was a ritual, each one meant to honor the gods and to remind the people that their lives were part of a much greater design. Every year, the Celtiberians held festivals that marked the cycles of life and the seasons. These gatherings brought the people together in joyous celebration, feasts, dances, and songs that honored the gods and the earth. They celebrated the harvest, giving thanks for the bounty that fed them through winter, and they marked the spring, a time of renewal and hope. During these festivals, families gave offerings, children learned songs of the gods, and all were reminded of the unbreakable connection they shared with the divine. It was in these moments that the Celtiberians felt closest to their gods, united in a shared sense of purpose, hope, and gratitude. The Celtiberians knew that life was fragile, that each day was a gift from the gods. They lived with an awareness that at any moment, the forces of nature could turn, bringing storms, droughts, or disease. In this world, faith was a strength, a shield against fear, a reminder that they were held within the care of the gods, even when faced with hardship. Prayers were not grand or complicated, they were simple, spoken from the heart, offered with humility and hope. People prayed for health, for the safety of loved ones, for protection in battle, for the blessings of children and fertile crops. These prayers were small gestures, yet they were filled with faith, with the belief that their gods heard them. The Celtiberians understood that they were part of the earth, born from it, and destined to return to it. Their gods lived in the stones, the rivers, the mountains, and even in the firelight that warmed them at night. Life and death were part of a cycle, each moment infused with meaning, each day a chance to honor the divine forces that shaped their world. Faith was not separate from life, it was life itself, a constant presence, as close as their own heartbeat. For the Celtiberians, spirituality was the breath within them, the pulse of their hearts, the light in their eyes. It was the knowledge that they were never alone, that the gods walked beside them, that the spirits of the ancestors watched over them. This was their strength, a faith as old as the stones beneath their feet, as enduring as the mountains that reached toward the sky. In the Celtiberian world, gods were close, woven into every heartbeat, every whisper of the wind, and every crackling ember of the village fires. Their gods were as real and vivid as the mountains, as the rivers, as the forests that stretched endlessly over their lands. Each god had a purpose, a story, and a presence in the lives of the Celtiberians, a powerful force that brought courage, strength, protection, and meaning. Their pantheon was a blend of Celtic and native Iberian influences, each god carrying unique qualities, reflecting the dual heritage that shaped the Celtiberians themselves. At the heart of their beliefs was a god of war and protection, a powerful figure they called Lugus. Lugus wasn't merely a god of battle, he was the embodiment of skill, wisdom, and strategy. In his honor, warriors carved his symbols on their weapons, wearing his blessings into battle, trusting in his guidance and strength. Lugus was known to favor those who showed bravery and cunning, who fought not just with muscle but with heart and mind. His name would be whispered with reverence before warriors donned their armor, and his spirit felt close at hand when they stood on the precipice of war, ready to face whatever lay ahead. Beside Lugus, there was the goddess Ada, a powerful force of life, death, and rebirth. Ada was the spirit of the cycles, of the seasons, of the earth's eternal rhythm. She was the goddess who watched over the crops, who brought life from the soil and, at times, took it back. When the Celtiberians harvested their fields, they gave offerings to her, thanking her for the bounty and asking her blessing to bring them another season of abundance. And in the winter months, when the earth lay still and cold, her presence was felt deeply, a reminder that even in the silence, life waited beneath the surface. In times of sorrow, her followers felt her comfort, trusting that death was not the end but a passage, a return to her embrace. Tyrannes, the thunder god, was a figure of awe and reverence, his voice heard in the storms that roared across the mountains and valleys. The Celtiberians knew him as the fierce protector, the one who brought rain to nourish the earth, but whose anger could shatter stone and fell mighty trees. His storms were signs of power, reminders of his strength and of nature's untamed force. When thunder rolled through the skies, the Celtiberians would look up, sensing his presence, feeling a mix of fear and respect for the god whose power was felt in every lightning strike, every gust of wind that swept through their lands. Tyrannes was the raw force of nature, a constant reminder that while the gods could bless, they could also destroy. Epona, the goddess of horses, was beloved by all who felt the spirit of freedom that came with riding. In Celtiberian lands, horses were symbols of both power and grace, animals that bridged the gap between humans and the divine. Epona was not only the protector of horses, but the goddess of travel, of journeys, of life's path. Her followers believed that she could guide them, protect them on the road, lead them home when they were lost. For warriors, she was a figure of luck in battle, and for the common people, a comfort, a reminder that life's journey, though uncertain, was watched over by her gentle spirit. Nantosuelta, the goddess of nature, home, and well-being, was another cherished deity among the Celtiberians. Her presence was felt in every hearth, in every small joy, and every quiet moment of peace. She was the goddess of family, of simple pleasures, of the warmth and safety that people felt in their homes. Her influence was found in the beauty of nature, in the flowers that dotted the fields, in the fresh water of streams, and the beauty of the land that was both fierce and tender. People called on her to bless their homes, to bring health and happiness, to protect the ones they loved. When the village gathered, shared laughter and food, Nantosuelta's spirit was among them, a reminder of the beauty in each moment. Ancestors were honored as well, their spirits believed to dwell close, watching over, protecting, guiding. For the Celtiberians, the line between the living and the divine was thin, each god and goddess connected to their world in ways that felt personal and immediate. They did not need temples, as their gods were found in the natural beauty around them, the forests, rivers, hills, and the star-filled sky at night. For the Celtiberians, worship was woven into everyday life, their faith unbreakable, as ancient and enduring as the stones beneath their feet. In each god and goddess, they saw a part of themselves, a reminder of their strength, their resilience, their love for their land and each other. Through their gods, they found courage in battle, peace in sorrow, and joy in the small beauties of life. They carried their faith as they carried their heritage, a living, breathing testament to who they were and what they cherished. In the ancient tales of the Celtiberians, the world began in a vast, endless night, a quiet stillness that stretched across eternity. From this darkness, a spark emerged, a single, bright light that broke through the silence, shimmering like a lonely star in a sky that had never known dawn. This spark grew and split, and from its glow came the first gods, the cosmic beings who would weave the fabric of the world from nothingness, breathing life and light into the empty dark. These were not ordinary gods, but beings so ancient and powerful that even their names were whispered with awe. The Celtiberians believed that these deities were not born but had always been, existing in a mysterious balance, their powers both immense and gentle. They called upon two great forces, one that represented light, warmth, and life, and another embodying the shadow, the coolness, and rest of the night. These twin deities did not fight or clash, but circled each other in a sacred dance, each one giving strength to the other, each knowing that neither light nor dark could exist alone. Together, they breathed out the stars, scattering them across the heavens like seeds, each one a tiny piece of their endless power. As these stars filled the sky, their brilliance called forth the earth itself, a sleeping giant who stirred beneath the stars' watchful gaze. And from this stirring of the earth, mountains rose, rivers flowed, forests whispered into being. Each mountain, each river, each tree was thought to hold a fragment of the gods' first breath, their ancient light caught in the bones of the land. The earth, the Celtiberians believed, was as alive as any creature, its heartbeat pulsing quietly beneath them, in time with the stars that spun above. In their lore, the sun and moon were more than celestial bodies, they were the eyes of the gods. The sun was seen as the radiant spirit of warmth and growth, a guardian who watched over the fields, the animals, the people. Every dawn, as the sun rose, it was a reminder of life's renewal, of the gods' promise to keep watch, to protect. The moon, with her silvery glow, was thought of as a softer spirit, gentle and wise, guiding the night with a calm presence. For the Celtiberians, the moon was also a keeper of secrets, her light touching dreams and inner thoughts, connecting them to the mysteries hidden in the dark. The stars, countless as they were the souls of those who had come before, ancestors watching over their loved ones, tiny flames of light scattered across the night sky. Among the creation stories, one of the most cherished told of a time when a single tear fell from the eye of a great cosmic deity, a tear that held all the pain and all the beauty of the world to come. As this tear fell, it touched the earth and became a crystal-clear lake, a lake so pure and sacred that it was said the gods themselves could see their reflection in its waters. This lake became a sanctuary, a place of connection between the earth and the heavens. People believed that if one visited this lake at night, under the stars' quiet gaze, they could feel the presence of the gods as close as their own heartbeats. It was a place of healing, where they could sense the touch of something vast, something that had always been and would always be. In the Celtiberian myths, there were stories of a great tree, one that grew at the center of the world, its roots winding deep into the heart of the earth and its branches stretching up toward the stars. This tree was said to hold the knowledge of ages, a bridge between the heavens and the earth, a living witness to the world's beginnings. It was more than just a tree, it was the lifeline of the world, a place where the gods themselves would come to rest, to think, to dream. In their beliefs, every tree held a spark of this first, cosmic tree, each one a guardian of life's secrets, standing tall and silent, reaching both into the soil and up toward the stars, connecting all things in a delicate, unbreakable balance. There was a legend that told of the first people, beings crafted from clay and stars, molded with hands that held the power of creation itself. These first humans were fragile, yet filled with the gods' own breath, giving them a unique spark, a heart that could feel both joy and sorrow. The gods watched as these beings took their first steps upon the earth, their movements hesitant, their hearts already reaching out to each other in love and kinship. And as they watched, the gods felt a kinship too, a love for these fragile creatures, whose lives would be brief but whose spirits would endure. So the gods blessed them, gifting them with the seasons, with the warmth of summer and the coolness of winter, the rain to nourish and the sun to warm. They would live in a world where life and death flowed together, each breath a part of the same great cycle. Some Celtiberians told of celestial beings who visited the earth, spirits who took the form of animals, wolves, deer, eagles. These were seen not as mere animals, but as messengers, guardians, protectors. Each one held a piece of the cosmic power, moving between the worlds of gods and humans, carrying messages, watching over the people with a silent wisdom. When a wolf's howl echoed across the mountains, or an eagle soared across the sky, the Celtiberians felt that these were signs, reminders that they were not alone, that the eyes of the gods were watching, guiding, protecting. And when the people looked up at the night sky, they saw not just stars, but the paths of their ancestors, the lights of their own kind who had crossed over yet remained close. The stars were spirits, each one a life that had passed, yet was still present. To them, death was not an ending but a return, a passage back to the gods, to the stars from which they had come. This belief brought a calmness to their lives, an acceptance that even in loss, they were held in the same cosmic embrace, their loved ones watching, guiding, their lights mingling with the stars above. The world of the Celtiberians was alive, not only with the gods, but with the spirits of all who had lived, all who would come to live. The earth, the stars, the mountains, the rivers, all were connected by invisible threads, threads woven by the gods themselves, tying everything together in a pattern as beautiful and mysterious as the stars scattered across the night sky. And in that knowledge, they felt a kind of peace, a courage to live fully, to love deeply, to face each day with hearts as open and boundless as the heavens above. The Celtiberians saw the earth as a living force, as sacred as life itself. In their world, the ground beneath their feet was not just soil, but something rich and powerful, a being that breathed and pulsed with its own heart. Every step they took, every seed they planted, every moment they lived on this land, they felt they were walking on something alive, something as old as the stars. They called her the Great Mother, the one who bore life in her hands, the one who held the mysteries of birth and death. She was the spirit of every field and forest, every mountain and stream, the quiet presence that kept life flowing. For them, she was not distant or unreachable, but as close as a mother's heartbeat. She was in the touch of the soft earth, in the bloom of flowers in spring, in the warmth of summer sun, and in the frost that covered the ground come winter. They believed her spirit slept beneath the soil, rising up with the green of the crops, nourishing everything with a quiet, unseen strength. One story tells of Adagina, a goddess whose name was spoken with reverence and hope, for she was the one who ruled over rebirth and the cycles of life. Adagina was thought to dwell in the earth's depths, watching over every seed, every root, every life that lay hidden in the soil. When spring returned, it was believed that Adagina herself breathed warmth into the cold ground, stirring the seeds awake, bringing life back to the sleeping land. Her spirit was in the bloom of wildflowers, and the scent of herbs, and the delicate new leaves on the trees. The Celtiberians saw Adagina as a tender yet powerful force, one that assured them that life would always find a way, that even in the hardest winters, spring would come again. To honor her, the people would make offerings, small gifts of grain, milk, and wine, left at the foot of ancient trees or buried in the fields, a gesture of thanks and a promise to care for the earth as she cared for them. They saw these acts as sacred, moments of connection with something vast and kind, something that held their lives with gentle, loving hands. And in return, they felt her blessings, her presence in each harvest, and every wild herb they gathered, and every meal they shared. The people also spoke of land spirits, beings who lived among them, unseen but always felt. There were spirits in the rivers, spirits in the rocks, spirits in the trees. Each grove had its guardian, each stream a watcher, each mountain a spirit as old as time itself. These spirits were protectors, gentle but fierce, watching over the land with eyes that missed nothing. If someone took too much, if they disrespected the land, these spirits could grow angry, sending storms or poor harvests as warnings. The Celtiberians understood this balance deeply, for they knew that the land was alive, and they were only one part of its story. One of their beloved tales spoke of a great oak that was home to a spirit of immense power and kindness. This oak, they believed, held within it the spirit of a wise old goddess who watched over the village and kept it safe. It was said that when danger was near, the leaves of this oak would rustle even without wind, a quiet warning that the people took to heart. In times of drought, villagers would leave offerings beneath its branches, gifts of honey, milk, and bread, symbols of their respect and gratitude. And in return, they trusted that this ancient spirit would protect their children, their animals, their homes. The earth spirits weren't always gentle, though. There were stories of mountain spirits, wild and untamed, who held dominion over the highest peaks, fierce beings who didn't take kindly to intruders. Hunters who ventured too far were known to leave small tokens, respectful gestures asking for safe passage. They believed that if they showed humility, if they entered the mountains with care, the spirits would allow them to pass, even guiding them toward game or back to safety if they lost their way. There were stories as well of water nymphs, beings who dwelled in rivers and springs, their presence felt in the shimmer of water, in the coolness of a stream on a hot day. These nymphs were said to be playful, sometimes mischievous, but also capable of great kindness. When someone fell ill, it was common to bring them to a sacred spring, to let the cool waters flow over them, believing that the nymphs would bless the water with healing power. Parents would tell their children to never throw stones into the river, lest they disturb these spirits. They were to treat the water with respect, to drink from it with gratitude, for in the flowing rivers was the spirit of life itself. In the eyes of the Celtiberians, fertility was a gift of the Earth Mother, a blessing of Adagina and her many sisters in spirit. Women would often pray to the earth goddesses for safe births, for healthy children, for the strength to nurture life as the earth nurtured theirs. When a child was born, they would take a handful of soil, place it near the newborn, a reminder that this child was part of the earth, bound to it, protected by it. The earth would watch over them as they grew, as they lived, and in time, it would welcome them back when their days were done. The Celtiberians felt these presences everywhere, even in the quiet of a still morning, or the first snow that blanketed the hills. When they harvested, they would leave the last stalk standing, a small gesture of gratitude, a sign that they knew the earth was alive, watching, feeling. They would sing songs as they worked, songs to honor the earth and the spirits, simple words that held great love, voices carried by the wind, filling the valleys and hillsides with a reverence that ran as deep as their roots. They never saw themselves as masters of the land, but as children of it. Their existence was woven into the life of the earth, just as a tree is bound to the soil that feeds it. They lived with an understanding that they were part of something sacred, something timeless, a truth that guided them through joy and sorrow, through life and death. To the Celtiberians, the earth was not a resource, not something to be used and discarded. It was their mother, their home, their connection to the gods and to each other. Every tree, every stream, every mountain was part of this living spirit. And in this bond, they found not just survival, but a profound peace, a love that ran through them as surely as the rivers ran to the sea. In the heart of Celtiberian villages, by the flickering warmth of firelight, tales of gods who guarded their people with strength and courage came alive. The Celtiberians held fierce loyalty for their tribes and cherished a deep respect for those who protected them, whether through sheer courage, wisdom, or supernatural strength. They believed the heavens were filled with gods who watched over them, warrior spirits who stood guard against all dangers. These gods were more than divine, they were family, protectors who would fight alongside them in spirit, shielding the tribe with an unseen but mighty force. One of the most revered among these protectors was a god of war, Indovelico. He was no ordinary warrior, he embodied the fierce, unbreakable spirit of every Celtiberian who had ever taken up arms to defend their kin. His spirit was said to move like a thunderstorm across the battlefield, his presence like a fierce wind that gave strength to the weary and courage to the fearful. When a warrior called out to Indovelico before entering battle, they felt his power surge within them, a strength that could turn the tide of any fight. It wasn't simply a prayer they spoke, it was a call to their oldest and most loyal protector, the one who would never abandon them in their time of need. It was told that Indovelico's gaze could pierce through armor, that he could see into the hearts of men. He didn't fight for glory or riches, but for loyalty and honor. Those who entered battle with his name on their lips did so with a purity of purpose. And if they fell, the Celtiberians believed that Indovelico himself would guide their spirits safely to the other side, carrying them with the respect and honor they deserved as defenders of their people. There was also Banjua, the fierce guardian of boundaries, a god who protected the lands, villages, and people with unwavering strength. Known to be relentless in his defense of those under his watch, Banjua was the spirit who stood at the edge of every village, invisible yet always there, keeping enemies at bay, guarding each soul as if it were his own. When people crossed into new lands or faced uncertain journeys, they called upon Banjua to keep watch, to protect their steps, and to shield them from dangers lurking in the unknown. The Celtiberians would etch his symbols onto rocks, shields, and even the doorways of their homes, a silent call to him to safeguard all that lay within. There was a legend of a warrior chief who, when his village was under attack, prayed to Banjua for aid. The god, moved by the warrior's courage, was said to have descended into the battle itself, lending his strength to the defenders, his invisible hands guiding their weapons, his fierce spirit woven into every strike. They believed that Banjua's power lingered in the places where he fought, forever guarding the soil with the strength of his protection. Among these protectors was a tale of the hero god Caturix, a god who embodied courage itself. Catturix wasn't just a figure of legend, but a symbol of every Celtiberian warrior who had ever faced overwhelming odds. He represented the spirit of defiance, the quiet fire that burned in each heart. Catturix was said to be as strong as the mountain peaks, his courage as deep as the earth. Warriors would evoke his name in silence, just before the rush of battle, their hands steadying on their weapons, feeling his spirit steady their own. The legend of Catturix told of a time when a neighboring tribe attempted to raid a Celtiberian village during the harvest season. Outnumbered and caught off guard, the villagers stood no chance. But as the invaders approached, a strange calm fell over the Celtiberians. It was said that Catturix himself had come, invisible but present, his spirit igniting their courage, binding their hearts in unbreakable resolve. The villagers fought fiercely, as if possessed by the strength of 100 warriors. By morning, their land was safe, and they knew in their hearts that Catturix had been among them, his power flowing through their veins, his will guiding each strike. They revered their ancestors, too, especially those leaders who had fought and sacrificed to protect the tribe. These warriors were not just remembered but were elevated, seen as deified spirits who continued to watch over their descendants, standing among the gods. Tales of these tribal leaders were passed down, their valor inspiring new generations. They believed that when they honored these ancestors, they were keeping them alive, giving them strength to protect from the spirit world. In these stories, each village would have its own heroes, those warriors whose memory lingered long after their lives had passed. One such legend told of a chief who, in his dying breath, swore to protect his people even in death. It was believed his spirit walked the village at night, a silent watcher, his strength woven into the walls, his loyalty felt in the air. People would sometimes leave offerings at his burial mound, tokens of their respect and gratitude, as they felt his presence like a quiet, protective warmth that settled over the village. The Celtiberians carried these stories with them in every step, in every battle, feeling the presence of their warrior gods as close as their own breath. To them, these gods and ancestors were more than names. They were the embodiment of strength, loyalty, and courage that pulsed in the Celtiberian heart. When the storms of conflict loomed, when danger threatened to consume, they turned to these ancient protectors, drawing from them the strength to face any trial. And in those moments, they felt a bond that reached beyond this world, a connection to a power that could not be touched or seen, yet was as real as the earth beneath them. This bond, this unbreakable thread of loyalty and courage, gave them a fearlessness that made the Celtiberians a people of unyielding spirit. They stood not alone, but surrounded by a host of ancient protectors, a silent, steadfast army of gods and ancestors who watched over them always, guarding the tribe with a love as fierce and enduring as the Celtiberian heart itself. The Celtiberians looked out at the wild lands around them, seeing not just animals but powerful spirits, creatures with souls as strong as the winds, as deep as the rivers, and as enduring as the mountains. Every wolf, bull, and eagle held meaning, a guide in life, a warning in times of strife, a silent, eternal companion in times of solitude. These animals were sacred, woven into their beliefs, their stories, their very sense of self. To them, each creature was a bridge to something greater, a living connection to the spirits that governed the land and watched over their lives. The wolf, above all, captured the Celtiberian heart. In those dark, quiet nights when the forest came alive, the Celtiberians would hear the lone howl of the wolf, its voice carrying through the trees, haunting and raw. This wasn't a mere animal call to them, it was the spirit of the wilderness speaking, a sound that resonated with something deep within. The wolf was a symbol of fierce loyalty, for it lived in packs, bound by family ties as strong as the Celtiberians' own. They believed the spirit of the wolf would guide and protect those who understood loyalty and honored their kin. When warriors went into battle, they wore charms engraved with the image of a wolf, hoping that the spirit of the wolf would lend them its courage and ferocity. Legend spoke of warriors who could call upon the wolf spirit, taking on its strength in times of great need. There was a tale of a hunter who was cornered by an enemy force. Outnumbered and outmatched, he called upon the wolf with a desperate, heartfelt plea, and in the silence that followed, a wolf appeared, silver-furred and fierce-eyed. The creature stood by his side, its presence filling him with a strange calm, a strength that pushed fear away. They fought as one, man and wolf, a vision that struck fear into the hearts of those who saw them. It was believed that the wolf spirit had taken him as its own, making him unstoppable. The bull, too, was a creature of deep reverence. In Celtiberian eyes, the bull was strength incarnate, a symbol of resilience, determination, and unyielding power. With its strong frame and unbreakable spirit, the bull was a guide in times of struggle, reminding them to endure, to stand their ground. Stories told of bulls that had fought off entire groups of attackers, of bulls whose strength had turned the tide of battles. Young men and warriors would sometimes mark their shields with symbols of the bull, hoping to draw on its spirit, its ability to press forward no matter the odds. One legend spoke of a bull that appeared at the edge of a village as a sign of protection. The villagers, struck by its majesty, built a shrine in its honor, praying for its strength to watch over them. Soon after, when raiders threatened, it was said that the spirit of this bull emerged, charging across the fields to stand beside the warriors, filling them with a strength they could barely contain. In gratitude, they carved statues of bulls to place in sacred places, believing that the bull's spirit would forever protect the village as a silent, watchful guardian. The eagle soared high above the Celtiberian lands, a creature of the sky that could see all from its lofty heights. To the Celtiberians, the eagle was a messenger of the heavens, its wings carrying the whispers of the gods. Its vision was unmatched, and it became a symbol of insight, foresight, and wisdom. They believed that those who honored the eagle could, in moments of silence and reflection, receive guidance that would allow them to see beyond the ordinary, to understand things hidden from most. Many believed that the eagle could see not just the earth, but the threads of fate woven through each life. If an eagle appeared in the sky above a traveler or a warrior, it was taken as a sign that they were being watched over, that their path was righteous. One story told of a young warrior who, on the eve of a dangerous journey, prayed to the eagle spirit for protection. The next morning, as he prepared to leave, an eagle appeared above, circling 3 times before vanishing into the horizon. The villagers took it as a sign that the eagle had accepted his prayer, and that it would fly ahead, guiding him on his path. He returned weeks later, safe and unharmed, crediting the eagle spirit for guiding him through storms and dark nights. There were other creatures, too, animals that moved through the Celtiberian world, each with its own sacred meaning. The stag, graceful and swift, was a symbol of endurance and renewal. In their hearts, the Celtiberians believed the stag was a creature of both land and spirit, moving between worlds, always watching, always aware. When someone faced a test of patience or strength, they looked to the spirit of the stag, remembering its quiet grace, its enduring presence through the harshest winters and the hottest summers. Birds of many kinds, too, held special meaning. Owls were creatures of mystery, of the night and the unknown. They were believed to see into the shadows, to understand secrets, to bring wisdom that could only be found in silence. To see an owl was to be reminded that sometimes the answers lay not in action, but in stillness, in waiting, in quiet observation. The Celtiberians' relationship with these animals was not based on control or ownership. They felt themselves as a part of the world, not separate from it, and they saw these creatures as allies, as teachers. When they prayed, they often spoke to the spirits of these animals, asking for guidance or strength, believing that through these connections, they could draw on the wisdom and power of the natural world. They wore symbols of wolves, bulls, eagles, and stags, not as trophies, but as reminders of their sacred qualities. To the Celtiberians, to honor an animal was to honor life itself, to show respect for the forces that move through all living things. And as they carried these symbols, as they looked to these creatures for guidance, they felt that they were never truly alone. Each step they took, every decision, every challenge faced, they did so with the spirit of these sacred animals by their side, sharing in their journey, giving them strength. These animals were not just creatures of the land or sky to them, they were protectors, friends, and family, each embodying a piece of the Celtiberian spirit. They taught resilience, courage, wisdom, and grace, values that the Celtiberians held as sacred, values that would carry on long after their time. In honoring these creatures, they honored the very essence of life, a bond that would tie them to the land, to each other, and to the spirits that watched over them forever. A young Celtiberian warrior stands alone, the stars above casting their quiet light over the rugged hills. His heart beats with the weight of the unknown, his mind brimming with 1,000 doubts. He knows that what lies ahead will test every fiber of his being. But he also knows this: heroes are not born from comfort, they are carved from challenge, molded in fire, and made eternal through their struggle. In Celtiberian tales, the hero's journey is one that every soul feels in their heart, even those who may never wield a sword. It begins with a call, an urgent need, or an unexpected misfortune, something that shatters the familiar and propels the young hero into a world unlike any he has known. Often, it's a danger threatening the tribe, a curse that has fallen upon the land, or a loved one lost or taken. And with a quiet courage, he takes that first step away from safety and into the unknown. One common thread weaves through these tales: the hero's path is never simple, nor is it ever solitary. The young hero often receives guidance, sometimes from an elder, a druid, or a wise spirit whose words ring with the echoes of ancient wisdom. This mentor knows that the path to greatness is paved with suffering, and yet he believes in the strength lying dormant in the hero. His words linger, like a steady flame lighting the way through the darkest nights. They remind the hero that he is not alone, even when the weight of his burden feels unbearable. The first test often comes swiftly, catching the hero unprepared and testing his resolve. In one legend, a young warrior named Artai sets out to rescue his sister, who has been taken by a mysterious force that none have dared to face. As he travels through forests dark and vast, he hears strange voices, feels eyes watching from the shadows, but he presses on, gripping his blade as if it's an extension of his very soul. He faces his first enemy, a beast, fierce and unrelenting. Fear grips him, whispering that he should turn back, that this is beyond him. But something stronger surges from within, a fierce determination to protect those he loves, and with a courage that surprises even him, he overcomes. In each Celtiberian tale, the hero's tests grow ever more daunting, each trial peeling away his weaknesses and revealing his hidden strength. These are not mere battles, they are moments of transformation. The hero faces spirits of the ancient forests, creatures of untold strength, and shadows that evoke his deepest fears. Each encounter changes him. He grows tougher, wiser, and braver, and with each victory, the quiet pride in his chest grows, lighting a fire that fuels him for what lies ahead. But the journey is far from over. One of the most poignant elements in Celtiberian hero stories is the moment of doubt, the dark night of the soul, when the hero's strength falters, and he is confronted with the raw weight of his mission. This moment is often brought on by loss, when a companion falls, or when he encounters a danger that seems insurmountable. In a legendary tale, a hero named Caelan faces his breaking point in a cave, where a spirit of the underworld forces him to confront his greatest fears, failing his tribe and losing those he loves. In that darkness, Caelan questions everything: his strength, his purpose, his very worth. It's at this lowest point, where he feels utterly alone, that the hero begins to understand the true nature of strength. The Celtiberians believe that only when the hero is stripped of pride, of certainty, and of comfort, does he realize the depth of his power. It is not physical might that defines him, but resilience, the unbreakable core that remains when everything else is stripped away. And in that realization, he finds his way out of the darkness, renewed, humbled, but stronger than ever. Emerging from this trial, the hero often encounters a final, climactic battle, a struggle not just of body but of spirit. Here, he faces not only a powerful enemy but the full weight of his journey. His trials and failures have shaped him, and now, everything he has learned is put to the test. In the tale of Artai, he faces the very spirit who took his sister, a creature born of shadows and despair. Yet Artai's eyes are clear, his heart steady. The fear he once felt is gone, replaced by a profound sense of purpose. His blade feels light in his hand, as if guided by something greater, and with every strike, he feels the strength of his ancestors, the power of every Celtiberian who has ever fought to protect their own. As he lands the final blow, victory surges through him, not just as a triumph over his enemy, but as a triumph over himself. He has become the hero he was always meant to be, a warrior whose courage will live on in the hearts of his people. Returning home, he is forever changed. He bears scars, both visible and hidden, marks of his journey that will forever remind him of his trials. Yet these are not badges of suffering, they are symbols of resilience, of the battles fought and won, of the strength that lies within when every outer comfort has been stripped away. The Celtiberians cherished these hero stories not just as entertainment but as lifeblood, as reminders that every person is capable of great courage. They saw themselves in these tales, believing that within each soul lay a hero, one who might never wield a sword or face a beast, but who would face battles of their own. To them, the hero's journey was a testament to the resilience that lies within, a promise that even in the darkest of times, strength can be found. These stories reminded the Celtiberians that the journey of the hero was not a distant legend, but a mirror reflecting their own lives. Whether in the warrior's bravery, the healer's compassion, or the farmer's patience, they found the hero within themselves. They knew that, like their ancestors in these tales, they, too, would face moments of doubt, times when the road felt too hard and the burden too heavy. But with the hero's spirit as their guide, they knew they could rise again, enduring and prevailing against the trials of life, just as the heroes of old had done before them. The Celtiberian hero was more than a figure of myth. He was a symbol of the courage, endurance, and unbreakable spirit that lay within every Celtiberian heart, a legacy passed down in stories that would be told for generations to come. In the cold morning mists of ancient Celtiberia, when the mountains cast shadows across the land and rivers flowed with icy clarity, tales of the eldest heroes took shape. These weren't stories about ordinary men and women. They spoke of beings touched by the gods, of those who walked among mortals but carried the spark of the divine. The people gathered by firelight to hear of these first heroes, the ones who carved paths through untamed wilderness, faced creatures that were more shadow than flesh, and spoke with the gods as one might speak with an old friend. One of these mythic heroes was Orus, the hunter. Orus was said to have the eyes of an eagle and the instincts of a wolf. The legend goes that he was born under a full moon, and his mother, a healer, noticed that no matter how dark the night, Orus seemed able to see clearly. As a boy, he wandered into the forests alone, drawn by voices only he could hear. There, in the silence, he met an ancient spirit in the form of a white stag, a creature of otherworldly grace and wisdom. The stag led him to hidden places, sacred groves, and caves where the earth whispered its secrets. Orus learned to move silently, to feel the heartbeat of the land, and to understand the language of animals. It was said that Orus's bond with the land made him more than human, a guardian who could see danger before it arrived, a protector who could stand against beasts and men alike. When invaders came to take Celtiberian lands, Orus was the first to meet them. Alone, he faced an entire army, not with brute strength, but with the cunning of the fox, the strength of the bear, and the agility of the eagle. His memory lingered in every valley, every grove, and his spirit became a part of the land he loved so fiercely. Then there was Amara, the seer, a woman of such wisdom and beauty that it was said she could calm the fiercest storms with her voice. She was born at the edge of a lake, where waters ran so still that they mirrored the heavens. Amara's gift revealed itself in early childhood. She could see events before they happened. As she grew, her visions deepened, showing her glimpses of the gods, foretelling storms and harvests, births and deaths. People came from distant villages, traveling for days just to speak with her, to ask her for a word of hope, a sign of protection. But Amara's journey was not an easy one. Her visions were often painful, filled with images of war, sorrow, and loss. She bore these burdens alone, struggling with the weight of knowledge that no one else could understand. The gods, moved by her suffering, visited her in dreams, offering her the choice to live as an ordinary person, free of the tormenting visions. But Amara refused. She believed that her visions were a gift to her people, a way to protect them and guide them. Her selflessness became the stuff of legend, and when a time came, they said she transformed into a swan, her spirit bound forever to the lake, watching over the people from the still waters. One cannot speak of the eldest heroes without mentioning Ridden, the flame bearer. Ridden was not born into a life of peace. He was the son of a warrior chief, and his life was marked by violence and loss. From a young age, he wielded a blade, his hands scarred and calloused before he reached manhood. But unlike others, Ridden's heart was not hardened by his brutal life. He had a deep compassion, a fierce loyalty to his kin, and a courage that could not be extinguished. One year, when the village was struck by famine, Ridden decided to seek help from the gods themselves. It was unheard of, no mortal could enter the sacred mountains and live. But Ridden climbed higher than any Celtiberian had dared, carrying only a torch to guide his way. For 3 days and 3 nights, he journeyed through biting winds and deadly cliffs, each step an act of defiance against the very laws of nature. Finally, at the peak of the sacred mountain, he met a god cloaked in flame. The god offered him a test: endure the fire, become one with it, and he would gain the strength to save his people. Ridden stood amid the flames, feeling the fire burn through his body, through his spirit. When he emerged, he was not the same. His hair had turned the color of embers, his skin bore the marks of the flame. With this divine gift, he descended the mountain, bringing warmth to the cold lands, sharing the fire with his people. He became known as the Flame Bearer, the one who brought light in the darkest of times, and his story became a beacon of hope, a reminder of the power of sacrifice and the bond between gods and mortals. These heroes shaped Celtiberian culture, not just as figures in stories, but as enduring presences that transcended the passage of time. Orus's spirit, woven into the land itself, made every forest feel like a sanctuary. Amara's calm spirit in the lake gave courage to those who came seeking peace. Ridden's fire became a symbol of resilience, the eternal flame that reminded the Celtiberians of their strength. Over the years, their stories were told and retold, passed down from elders to children. Their deeds were woven into songs, painted on stones, and whispered in prayers. For the Celtiberians, these heroes were not distant legends. They were family, ancestors who had walked the same land, felt the same fears, and fought the same battles. In moments of hardship, people would invoke Orus's name for courage, call upon Amara's spirit for guidance, and look to Ridden's flame to rekindle their resolve. These eldest heroes became part of a shared cultural memory, threads in the tapestry of Celtiberian identity. Their stories were not just echoes from the past, they were living, breathing tales that guided the people in their own lives. The Celtiberians believed that anyone could carry a piece of these heroes within them. A hunter alone in the woods might feel Orus's keen senses awaken in him. A woman, facing an uncertain future, might feel Amara's calm descend upon her. And in the heat of battle or the throes of struggle, the fire of Ridden would ignite in the hearts of warriors. These heroes did not live for themselves, they lived for their people, for the land, and for the future. Their stories reminded the Celtiberians of the power that lay within them, a power to protect, to endure, and to thrive against all odds. And as long as their stories were told, the eldest heroes of Celtiberia would live on, their spirits forever watching over the hills, forests, and rivers they had loved so fiercely. When people speak of Numantia, a fierce glimmer fills their eyes, as if recalling something too great, too powerful, to ever truly fade. There was a fire that burned in Numantia, a defiance so pure it still echoes through the hills, a fire so fierce that even death could not put it out. Numantia was a small city, but its walls held the pride of an entire people. For 20 years, the Romans tried to bend the Celtiberians to their will, swallowing village after village, city after city. Yet, the people of Numantia, fierce in their freedom, stood unyielding. They would not surrender their home or bow to a conqueror. For months, the siege raged. The Romans brought with them the full weight of their empire, tens of thousands of soldiers, engineers, and even siege towers stretching up toward the sky. They built walls around Numantia's walls, trying to choke off every escape, every source of food or water. The Celtiberians could see the glint of Roman shields stretching endlessly, circling them like a snake, tightening with each passing day. And yet, inside those walls, the people stood together, hearts burning with something even stronger than fear. In the tales passed down, they say that the defenders of Numantia would stand at the walls, staring down at the Roman soldiers below with eyes of steel. Their leaders were not just men, they were legends in the making. There was Retigenes, known as the Lion of Numantia, who led raids that struck terror into the Roman camps. Swift and silent as a shadow, he moved under the cover of night, striking with the speed of a falcon, leaving behind only whispers of fear among the Romans. But Retigenes was more than a warrior, he was a symbol. His courage filled the hearts of his people like a torch lighting the darkest night. Even when supplies dwindled and the hunger gnawed at their bodies, the Numantines looked to him and knew that they were not defeated. They would fight until the last breath, knowing that to surrender was to give up their souls, their pride, the very heart of their homeland. Then there was Ambon, the healer, known for his hands as gentle as spring rain and his spirit as fierce as winter's cold. Every wound he bound, every sickness he tended, was not just an act of survival, it was a promise that Numantia would not break. Even as the Roman soldiers stood relentless outside their walls, Ambon refused to lose hope. He was said to carry herbs with him as precious as gold, but it was his words that healed as much as his medicines. The Romans, he would tell the people, they may take the ground beneath our feet, but they can never take the fire that lives within us. The children, too, became warriors of spirit, watching as their fathers and mothers took up arms, never once wavering. They grew up within the walls of Numantia, hearing the songs of courage that spoke of honor and resilience. As hunger and weariness wore down the adults, the children's laughter echoed defiantly, a sound that told the Romans that Numantia still breathed, still lived, still resisted. Days stretched into weeks, weeks into months. The Romans, unaccustomed to such resistance, began to question if they were fighting mere men or spirits made of stone. The tales say that Scipio Aemilianus, the Roman general who led the siege, grew haunted by the unwavering will of these people. He had come to crush them, yet he could see that they would not surrender, no matter the cost. And so, he tightened the grip, sealing every pathway, cutting off every supply, forcing the people of Numantia to rely on their sheer will to survive. With every passing day, the city grew quieter, weaker. Yet inside, the fire burned brighter. Men and women looked to each other with a fierce pride, an understanding that even if their bodies failed, their spirits would stand. They began to sing the songs of their ancestors, songs of battles won and lands defended, voices thin but unbroken. The songs rose from the streets like a battle cry, carried on the wind to the ears of the Roman soldiers, who could feel the weight of that unbreakable spirit pressing upon them. As supplies dwindled, the Numantines made a final choice. They would not give themselves to Rome, nor would they allow the pride of their city to be trampled under the feet of a conqueror. And so, in the stories told, they say that the people gathered in the heart of their city, families holding each other close, warriors clutching their weapons with one last fierce grip, children nestled in the arms of their parents. Together, they decided to meet the gods on their own terms, with heads unbowed and hearts full of fire. On that final night, Numantia did not fall in silence. The fires were lit high, reaching up to the sky as if to tell the stars themselves of the courage that lived within those walls. Smoke rose, filling the night, carrying with it the pride, the defiance, the unbreakable spirit of a people who chose to die as they had lived, free. When the Romans finally entered the city, they found not a single soul to conquer. What they found was a graveyard of heroes, a city standing empty but unbroken, its walls marked with the fierce defiance of the people who had lived within. In their hands, the people of Numantia had clutched the soil of their homeland, clinging even in death to the ground they had vowed to protect. To this day, the spirit of Numantia endures, and the stories of Retigenes the lion, and the healing hands of Ambon, and the songs of the children who had grown up behind its walls. Numantia was not a mere city, it was a testament to a people's love for their land, for their way of life, for each other. The Romans might have claimed victory in that barren, smoke-filled landscape, but they left knowing they had not conquered Numantia. In the heart of Celtiberia, where mountains and rivers drew the land into a rugged and timeless beauty, there lived women who held within them the fierce spirit of warriors, guardians, and leaders. These women were not simply companions or mothers, they were queens, fighters, and protectors of their people. In a land where survival meant strength, Celtiberian women proved time and again that they were made of iron and fire. Legends speak of Celtiberian queens who, adorned in war paint and armor, rode at the head of their people, wielding weapons with the strength and skill of the greatest warriors. They ruled not from fear, but from a fierce and undeniable respect, earned on battlefields and in moments of relentless courage. Their voices rang out in times of war, calling their people together, giving them hope in their darkest hours. The people knew these queens as their own blood and their own heart, a heartbeat that pulsed through the entire land. One such tale tells of a queen who led her people against an invading force, refusing to yield even an inch of their sacred land. Clad in armor and crowned with a circlet of woven silver, she fought at the front, her war cries echoing like thunder across the valley. When her warriors faltered, she would ride her horse across the line, calling to them to rise, to remember their ancestors, to fight not just for themselves, but for those who had walked before them. Her strength was like that of the earth itself, unyielding, constant, something that could never truly be taken. And there were others, women whose names have slipped into the rivers and winds of history, but whose spirits remain. There were the priestesses who knew the secrets of the earth, who chanted by firelight and guided their people through both drought and harvest. In times of peace, these priestesses walked the paths of their forests, gathering herbs and speaking blessings over the children of their tribes. But in times of war, they wielded knives, calling upon the spirits of their ancestors to protect their kin. The warriors believed that the presence of these women on the battlefield was like having the gods themselves at their side. There was also the tale of the sisterhood that guarded the sacred shrines of the Celtiberians. They were a group of women trained from childhood to defend their holy sites, a group that included warriors and healers, seers and shield maidens. These women stood like walls of stone around the ancient places, their eyes as sharp as eagles, their hands steady. It is said that these shrine keepers would often sense danger before it even arrived, foretelling battles, reading the signs in the stars, and preparing their people for what was to come. When invaders attempted to breach their lands, the sisterhood took up arms, forming a line of defense as fierce and unbreakable as the mountains themselves. Many tales recount the lives of legendary female warriors who, from a young age, learned to wield weapons and defend their homes. These women were not taught that war was a man's duty. They knew that defending one's home was a duty shared by all. In their hands, the bow, the sword, and the shield became instruments of survival, of legacy, of unyielding pride. They trained alongside their brothers, their fathers, and their sons, not as exceptions, but as equals. They ran with the wolves in the forests, honing their instincts, learning to read the land, and knowing that the spirits of their ancestors ran beside them. One name that remains among the most honored is that of Tirsa, a warrior queen remembered for her unmatched courage and fierce loyalty. Stories tell that Tirsa led her people in battle against a foreign army that sought to enslave her tribe. With firelit eyes and hands wrapped tightly around her spear, she was said to have stood her ground even as the enemy threatened to overrun her warriors. Her call to her people was simple but powerful: we fight not just for today, but for the lives yet to come, for our children and theirs. Her stand that day became legend, for even when the battle seemed lost, she held her ground, a lone figure against an army, unbowed and unbroken. Her spirit, they say, lives on in every Celtiberian heart that beats with courage. But it wasn't only in battle that these women made their mark. Their strength was also in the wisdom they shared, the healing they offered, the unity they brought to their people. Many were not just warriors, they were mothers, guiding their tribes with hands both gentle and strong. They told the stories of their ancestors to the young, ensuring that every child grew up knowing the names of their forebears and the legacy they were born to continue. Through their hands, they wove together the past, the present, and the future, binding their people with love and memory. And so, the women of Celtiberia stood at the heart of their culture. In every warrior's stride, in every blade raised, there was a mother, a sister, a daughter who had taught them the meaning of courage. The Celtiberian people didn't just remember their women as warriors, they remembered them as the soul of their land, the ones who held together the fabric of life, who fought not for themselves alone, but for everyone who came after. The land of Celtiberia was carved by the footsteps of warriors and soaked in the sweat of fierce defenders who would not surrender. Across the hills and valleys, legends tell of tribes who stood against impossible odds, battles where the earth itself seemed to roar alongside them. The Celtiberian tribes were more than just fighters, they were bound by honor, woven into a tapestry of courage and kinship, united by a love for their land that no enemy could break. One of the most stirring tales is that of the Aravasi, a tribe whose bravery became the heartbeat of Celtiberia. In a time when foreign forces encroached upon their lands, this tribe rose like a storm. The Aravasi were known for their fierce commitment to their people and their skill in battle, their warriors wrapped in cloaks that billowed as they charged, eyes fierce and unwavering. It was said that the Aravasi warriors could hear the voices of their ancestors calling to them from the winds, guiding their hands and lending strength to their blows. When the Aravasi took the field, they moved as one, their hearts and swords bound to protect their homeland. The Lusones, another tribe etched into legend, were renowned not only for their courage, but for their keen strategies and near-superhuman endurance. When the tides of battle turned against them, the Lusones didn't retreat. Instead, they drew upon the strength of their ancestors, pressing forward with a resolve that left even their enemies in awe. They were masters of ambush, lying in wait for days, reading the earth and sky, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Their stories tell of warriors who could move silently through dense forests, their arrows swift and sure, taking down foes with an almost supernatural precision. Many of the surviving tales speak of the eerie silence that often preceded a Lusone's ambush, a silence that was broken only by the cries of their enemies. And then there were the Vetones, whose resilience became the stuff of Celtiberian myth. Living in a region marked by rugged landscapes and harsh winters, the Vetones were forged by the land itself, their bodies and minds hardened against every hardship. In battle, the Vetones were like iron, their shields and swords an extension of their own flesh. They stood shoulder to shoulder, their ranks impenetrable, a wall of strength that neither man nor beast could breach. The stories tell of the Vetones' unbreakable spirit. When their homes were under siege, they fought with a ferocity that could only come from the depths of love for their people. These warriors didn't fight for glory or conquest, but for the sanctity of their land, for their families, for their way of life. The Carpetani, too, deserve mention among these tales of valor. Known for their love of freedom and independence, they were a fiercely protective people, guarding their territories like wolves guarding their dens. The Carpetani warriors fought with a wild, untamed power, their battle cries echoing across the fields and striking fear into the hearts of those who dared to invade their lands. Some stories claim that the Carpetani believed they were guided by animal spirits, the spirits of the wolf and the eagle, creatures that gave them speed, strength, and vision. They moved through the forests and fields like shadows, striking without warning, and vanishing just as quickly, leaving their enemies disoriented and afraid. Then there's the tale of the famed Battle of Numantia. In this legendary conflict, Celtiberian warriors stood united, tribe after tribe joining forces in defense of their people. Withstanding relentless sieges, starvation, and overwhelming odds, they fought with an unmatched resilience. Warriors went days without food, sharing what little they had among the young and the wounded. The elders, too, took up arms, standing alongside the youth, uniting generations in a single cause. Even as supplies dwindled and the sun bore down upon them, the defenders of Numantia held their ground. They fought not just to live, but to show their enemies that Celtiberia's spirit would never be conquered. Those who survived spoke of the strength they drew from their brothers and sisters, a bond so fierce that not even death could shake it. Another story, often whispered by fireside, is of the Alcaides, known for their unmatched bravery in battle. When an army threatened to sweep through their lands, the Alcaides did not flinch. With weapons in hand, they stood at the gates of their villages, their faces set with determination. They were farmers, shepherds, and artisans, yet when the call came, they transformed into warriors with a fearlessness that struck their enemies like lightning. The Alcaides fought with every ounce of strength, their hearts ablaze, knowing that every blade of grass, every stone, every river was worth defending. These battles were more than just struggles for land, they were tests of spirit. The Celtiberian tribes fought with a unity and a tenacity that lives on in the tales that survived them. In each story, you can hear the pride and strength that these warriors carried, a spirit that time itself could not erase. They were bound not by fear, but by the fierce love for their land and their people, for the hills and rivers that had given them life. They fought for the voices of the past and the hopes of the future, for the souls yet to be born. Celtiberian legends speak not only of warriors but of a people for whom honor and loyalty ran like blood. In every battle, they did not stand as isolated tribes, but as one people, united by bonds stronger than iron. And so, even now, their stories linger, woven into the fabric of the land they defended. The echoes of their courage and sacrifice remain, whispering through the valleys and mountains of Celtiberia, their memory as enduring as the rocks they fought upon. Their battles may have ended, but their spirits continue to guard the land that meant everything to them. They say the Celtiberian forests whispered secrets to those who listened, that rivers held stories older than any living soul, and mountains rose as guardians, sheltering their people. The land was alive with unseen forces, spirits dwelling in each ancient tree, every flowing stream, each peak that touched the sky. For the Celtiberians, these spirits were not distant or imagined, they were as real as the soil beneath their feet, and many swore that they could feel their presence. To them, every part of the natural world held meaning and memory, echoing with the voices of spirits who watched over the land with a timeless wisdom and protective gaze. One story speaks of the spirit of the great mountain Orus. In times of danger, it said that Orus himself would emerge from the mountain mist, a towering figure of stone and earth who watched over the villages nestled in the valleys below. Farmers would leave offerings at his base, simple gifts like woven grass or stones smoothed by rivers. And there, in the silence of dawn, Orus would listen, his presence a constant reminder that they were never alone. He didn't speak, but some villagers claimed they felt his approval in the wind that swept down the mountain, rustling through trees with a gentleness that seemed almost like a touch. In their hardest winters and their most bountiful summers, the Celtiberians believed Orus watched over them, a patient guardian of earth and rock. The rivers, too, held their own spirits, and none were more revered than the river goddess Alara. Flowing through Celtiberia like a lifeline, Alara's waters brought life to the land, feeding crops and filling wells. But Alara was not simply a giver, she demanded respect. Her spirit was gentle yet fierce, known to bless those who honored her and curse those who took without thought. Travelers would kneel by her banks, murmuring their thanks before drinking, acknowledging her presence with words carried away by the river. Once, a man was said to have taken a golden fish from Alara's waters without offering his thanks. Days later, his crops withered, and the river flooded his fields. Desperate, he returned to her banks, offering back the golden fish and begging forgiveness. Alara's waters receded, and the man learned a lesson he would never forget: the spirits of Celtiberia were to be revered, not exploited. In dense forests and groves, where sunlight barely pierced through the canopy, the spirits of the trees watched with ancient, patient eyes. Known as Silvoa, these spirits were said to be protectors of all who lived within the forest's embrace. To venture too far without respect for Silvoa's realm was to risk losing one's way, as if the trees themselves twisted paths and tangled roots to lead intruders astray. Hunters would whisper to Silvoa for safe passage, laying leaves or acorns on the ground as offerings. In return, Silvoa allowed them to hunt, guiding their arrows with the precision only nature could bestow. But there were also those who ignored Silvoa's presence, taking more than they needed or harming the trees. These people would find themselves lost for days, their calls swallowed by the silence of the woods, as if Silvoa herself had turned her back on them. One tale often told around Celtiberian fires was of a boy named Ivan, who wandered too far into the forest. As darkness fell, he realized he was lost. He could feel the forest closing in, the silence thick and heavy. But then, a soft rustling reached his ears, and he saw a faint light moving through the trees. Following the light, he found a small, shimmering figure, no taller than his knee, with eyes like green leaves and hair like flowing moss. This was one of Silvoa's children, a forest spirit, who guided Ivan back to his village without a word. When he turned to thank her, she was gone, leaving only the scent of fresh pine in the air. Ivan returned with a new respect for the spirits, knowing they could be both generous and elusive. In quiet hills, another spirit watched over the herds and the flocks, the shepherd's friend, called Borvo, the spirit of gentle rains and green pastures. Borvo was the one the herders looked to when storms threatened, calling upon him for calm skies and lush grass. Borvo was said to be tender-hearted, taking joy in the laughter of children and the songs of shepherds. In springtime, herders would pour a small amount of milk onto the ground as a gift to Borvo, thanking him for the health of their animals. They spoke to him as if he were an old friend, knowing that Borvo listened to their worries, calming the storms that rumbled through their valleys. Those who honored him claimed their sheep thrived, and that Borvo's reign was gentle, coaxing flowers and wild grasses to life. And yet, the spirits were not always kindly. There were spirits who guarded their realms fiercely, allowing none to enter. One such was Nuba, the shadowy spirit of the caves. Nuba was said to dwell in the depths, a figure of darkness and stone, her eyes like cold fire. Those who dared enter her caves without her permission often did not return. Her realm was one of secrets, a place where mortals were forbidden unless they sought her with pure intentions. A legend speaks of a miner who sought to dig deep into Nuba's domain, hoping to find silver. He ignored the warnings, descending into the cave with greed in his heart. Days passed, and he didn't return. His family, heartbroken, left offerings at the cave's mouth, asking for Nuba's mercy. Eventually, Nuba returned him, but he emerged pale and silent, never speaking of what he saw, forever marked by the shadows of the underworld. The Celtiberians' respect for these spirits wove through every aspect of their lives. The mountains, rivers, forests, and fields were not merely parts of nature, they were beings, guardians, and friends. These spirits watched over the people, walking beside them in times of plenty and hardship alike. To them, the spirits were family, ancestors, protectors, and guides, filling their world with an unseen presence that gave depth to every part of life. In the Celtiberians' hearts, the spirits had shaped the land and bound them to it. Every breeze, every flowing stream, every rustling leaf reminded them of the spirits' watchful eyes. This bond to the natural world was a vow of kinship and protection. For the Celtiberians, nature wasn't just a place to live, it was a family, a home, and the spirits were its ancient keepers, forever watching over the land and its people with a fierce and tender love. They believed it was close, a world so near to ours that it almost touched the other world. A place spoken of in whispers and dreams, where mist curled around the trees in pale blue, and the air shimmered with life beyond mortal reach. The Celtiberians saw it as a place both hauntingly beautiful and fearsome, a land that was not theirs yet held pieces of their spirits. When night fell and shadows stretched across the land, the people would look into the darkness, sensing that something watched back from the other world, a realm alive with magic and mystery, populated by beings as ancient as the mountains and as capricious as the winds. To cross into the other world was no simple thing, for it was a land for spirits and gods, not meant for mortal feet. Some spoke of ancient caves where the veil between worlds was thin, where travelers would sometimes glimpse a flicker of light or hear a haunting melody that seemed to call them forward. These caves were places of both wonder and terror, for it was said that those who wandered too far might lose themselves in the endless twilight of the otherworld, never to return. But the Celtiberians did not fear the otherworld as much as they respected it. It was where their ancestors watched over them, where warriors who had fallen in battle continued their fights, where loved ones passed on to find peace. Within the otherworld, there were beings both fair and fearsome. The Alci, spirits of the ancient dead, moved through it like shadows, visible only in the faintest glimmers of light. They were guardians and wanderers, protectors of the otherworld's many realms. The Alci were neither good nor evil, and their moods were as changing as the winds. They could bless a wandering soul with visions of beauty or cast one into endless confusion, depending on their whim. Celtiberian villagers would sometimes leave offerings near sacred trees or wells in hopes of earning the Alci's favor, knowing that even a simple trinket or bundle of herbs might catch the spirit's eye and secure their goodwill. But beyond the Alci were creatures stranger still, inhabitants of an ancient magic that danced just out of sight. There were tales of the Fur-Balg, towering beings with skin as rough as the bark of the oldest trees and strength unmatched by any mortal. They were the guardians of the deep woods, appearing at the edge of villages to protect their lands. It was said that if a hunter were to take more than his share or harm the forest carelessly, the Fur-Balg would appear in warning, their low voices rumbling like distant thunder. Yet, if shown respect, they would guide the lost back home, their footsteps silent as they moved through the trees. Many an elder would tell stories of these encounters, urging the young to honor the land, lest they invoke the wrath of these ancient protectors. There was another being, one so feared and respected that even its name was seldom spoken aloud, the Leonan city. This spirit, cloaked in beauty that was both enchanting and chilling, was said to offer gifts of inspiration to those it favored. Poets, singers, and warriors sometimes sought her out, hoping for her blessing that brought visions and dreams of power. But the price was always high, for her gift was a double-edged sword, consuming those who accepted it, draining their life in exchange for greatness. To be touched by the Leonan city's magic was to see beyond the world, to create beauty unmatched, but always at a cost. Some claimed they saw her in moments of silence, in the thin light before dawn, her gaze both gentle and sharp, a reminder that every gift comes with a price. The otherworld was also filled with enchanted landscapes, places untouched by time or decay, places that seemed to glow with a light that never faded. It was said that fields there bloomed forever, with flowers that could heal wounds or grant visions of the future. In the deepest parts of the otherworld lay lakes with waters so clear they revealed truths hidden from mortal eyes. The people believed that sometimes, if the need was dire, a healer or wise one could enter the otherworld in a trance, seeking these waters to help those who suffered. They would close their eyes, letting their spirit wander, guided by whispers and the distant hum of unseen wings. And if they were blessed, they would return with water from the otherworld springs, a few drops of life from a place beyond life. But not all spirits welcomed mortals into their world. Some were fierce protectors of the otherworld's borders, like the shadowed Fomorians. These beings, twisted and strange, guarded the thresholds with a ferocity born of ancient duty. They did not understand the human heart, and in their eyes, mortals were trespassers. Hunters and travelers were warned never to go near the hills where the Fomorians were known to dwell. If one did catch sight of a Fomorian, a shape shifting like mist, a voice that echoed in strange tones, it was best to bow one's head and offer respect, to acknowledge the boundaries between worlds. And yet, sometimes those boundaries would shift, opening paths where none had been before. On nights when the moon was hidden, or during storms when the sky raged with lightning, the otherworld would come close enough to touch. There are stories of people vanishing, stepping into these hidden places only to reappear years later, unchanged, as if they had only been gone a day. They would speak of lands bathed in twilight, of creatures with eyes like stars and voices like the rush of rivers. When they returned, these travelers seemed distant, their eyes holding secrets that no one could understand, memories of a world beyond the world, a place where time moved like water and death was a shadow that lingered but never fell. For the Celtiberians, the otherworld was not simply a place of mystery, it was a place where all things connected, where ancestors waited, and where the spirits kept their watch. It was where souls wandered after death, where dreams took root, and where stories were born. The boundary was thin, especially for those who knew how to listen and to see beyond the ordinary. And though many feared it, they could not deny the otherworld's beauty and its promise of something greater than life itself. To them, it was a reminder that there was always more than met the eye, that life and death were but two steps on a path that stretched on forever, into lands unseen and spirits unspoken but always felt, just a breath away. In the hills and shadowed valleys of Celtiberia, there were whispered tales of creatures that lurked just beyond the light. These beings, monstrous and otherworldly, seemed born from the very bones of the earth itself, as old as the stones and as fierce as storms. Each legend spoke of strange forms that haunted the edges of forests, lingered beneath mountain passes, or roamed wild, hunting under moonlight. To meet such creatures was to come face to face with raw power, terrifying and beyond any human understanding, beings born from the world's oldest fears. There were the giants, beings towering as high as the pines, their eyes cold like stones beneath a riverbed. It was said they were made from the mountain's own bones, a people of rock and soil with strength that could split boulders in two. Giants were both feared and revered, for they were as old as the world itself and knew secrets of creation lost to time. When thunder rolled over the Celtiberian highlands, villagers would shudder, knowing that somewhere, a giant was awake, stretching its limbs and stirring the earth. It was in these moments that people huddled close to their fires, praying that the great beings would stay content in their solitary homes and leave their villages untouched. One tale tells of a giant who, angered by the noise of human villages, descended into the valley to find the source of his disturbance. With each step, the ground quaked, and trees bowed beneath his gaze. The people, seeing the fury in his eyes, scattered like birds. But among them, a young warrior stepped forward, bowing low before the giant. Instead of fleeing, he offered a token of peace, a rare gem from the depths of a river, gleaming with hues of the dawn. This act calmed the giant, who then offered a blessing to the valley and returned to his mountain, silent once more. The people believed the warrior's courage saved them that night and honored him long after he was gone, marking his bravery with songs sung by firelight. There were other creatures, ones less willing to be appeased. Trolls, rough-skinned and sinister, haunted the forests and the dark places between villages. With their grotesque faces and twisted limbs, trolls were more beast than man. Their laughter echoed in the night, low and cruel, and was enough to chill the bones of even the bravest warriors. Trolls thrived on the fear they inspired. They watched from the shadows, lurking in the corners of dreams. Some believed that if a person wandered too far into the woods after dark, the trolls would drag them away, leaving only eerie silence in their wake. Children were told not to stray from the path, for it was said that the trolls could lure the unwary with their strange, guttural songs, a sound neither fully human nor beastly, but something darkly captivating that would draw a soul into danger. Once, in a remote village nestled near a dense wood, a child went missing. His mother called and searched through the night, her voice piercing the cold air, but there was no answer. At dawn, a lone hunter ventured into the forest and came upon a clearing where stones were arranged in strange patterns, and there, lying atop a stone, was the boy, unharmed but fast asleep, his cheeks pale. When he awoke, he had no memory of what had happened, only that he had heard a song that led him deeper and deeper into the woods. The villagers spoke of the trolls' dark magic, their power to entrance and deceive, and for generations, no one ventured far into the woods at dusk, fearing the lurking shadows and the haunting notes of that strange, inhuman song. In mountain caves, tales spread of beings even older than the first Celtiberian tribes to wander the land, monsters who slumbered in the earth, only stirring in times of great turmoil. These creatures had no fixed form. Some were like serpents, their eyes aglow with an ancient hunger, while others appeared as massive birds with wings that blocked out the sun. One story tells of a monstrous creature, the Serpent of the Seven Hills, whose body twisted around entire villages, its scales reflecting the sunlight in dazzling hues. When angered, its hiss was said to echo across the land, making rivers tremble and birds fall silent. Only a few dared approach the Seven Hills where the serpent was rumored to dwell, and even those brave souls returned with stories of vast trails left in the grass, where something enormous had passed in the night. And then there was the tale of the Wendigo-like Windower, a shadow that hunted on winter nights when the world was covered in snow. Windower appeared as a figure of gaunt skin and hollow eyes, a creature as hungry as it was merciless. It sought out warmth, they said, stalking lone travelers who found themselves stranded in the cold. One family told of a night when a strange figure knocked on their door, seeking warmth, but its eyes glowed with a hunger that betrayed its appearance. The father, sensing danger, placed iron at the threshold, knowing it was one of the few things the Windower feared. They watched as the creature retreated into the snow, its shadow long and dark against the moonlight. After that night, stories spread that Windower could only be kept away by iron, and villagers began to wear iron amulets to guard against its haunting presence. In Celtiberian folklore, even rivers had their guardians. In certain places, beings known as Naxeros were said to dwell beneath the water's surface. They were pale creatures with long limbs, often mistaken for sunken logs or drifting shadows. The Naxeros were fiercely territorial, punishing those who disturbed their waters without respect. Some said that if a person drank from their river without leaving an offering, the Naxeros would rise in the night, following them like a dark memory until they fell ill or wandered back to the river, compelled to return to the water. Those who made peace with the Naxeros, however, would find the waters kinder, their health strengthened by the river's hidden blessings. These monstrous beings served as both warnings and reminders. They were the manifestations of nature's untamed side, of the darkness that lay in every shadow, a part of the land that was both familiar and utterly foreign. The Celtiberians told their stories not just as tales of fear, but as lessons in respect, to teach the young that there were forces beyond human control, ancient spirits that held the world's oldest wisdom and deepest terrors. And in every tale, and every whispered legend, they wove the threads of awe and fear, knowing that these creatures were as much a part of their world as the mountains and rivers that surrounded them. When the sun dipped below the hills of Celtiberia, and shadows began to stretch their fingers across the land, whispers of ancient magic filled the night air. The people knew that this was the hour when figures cloaked in mystery and magic stirred, weaving spells and speaking with spirits. Legends told of those who could alter fate, heal the sick, or even curse those who had wronged them. Among them were witches and sorcerers, feared yet respected for the powerful, mysterious forces they held within. The witches of Celtiberian lore were unlike any others. They were known to possess a rare connection to the earth and the night skies, to hear the voices of trees, rivers, and stones. There was Anara, a healer who could cure any ailment with the leaves of the forest, yet who held a secret darkness. It was said she had learned her craft from ancient spirits who taught her the hidden language of herbs and roots, as well as spells that only those willing to pay a great price dared to learn. She could call upon the winds to carry messages across mountains or stir a flame without wood or spark. Villagers came to her with both reverence and caution, knowing her gifts could heal, but just as easily harm. Once, the story goes, a warrior, brave and stubborn, insulted Anara, questioning her powers. Angered, she muttered an incantation, her words curling through the air like tendrils of smoke. That night, as he walked through the village, the warrior felt an odd weight in his chest. By dawn, he had fallen gravely ill, his skin cold, his breath shallow. Only Anara could lift the curse she had placed, but she waited for him to admit his wrongs before she healed him. Her magic, it seemed, was bound by a sense of justice as much as power. She showed the villagers that while her gifts were for those in need, her wrath was a force to be reckoned with. Some spoke of her spirit wandering the forests even after her death, guiding travelers who honored the land but leading trespassers astray. Children were warned to leave offerings of honey or berries along forest paths, honoring the spirit of Anara so that her shade might look kindly upon them. Then there was Lucios, a man bound to a curse as ancient as the mountains themselves. Long ago, he had betrayed his clan, seeking power through dark magic. The gods themselves were angered, and they cursed him to walk the earth alone, unable to find rest in life or death. His eyes, once bright with ambition, grew hollow, and his voice took on a hollow, ghostly tone. Lucios was doomed to wander in solitude, his very presence chilling the air, his shadow bringing an uneasy silence to the land. People claimed that to see him was to feel a terrible sadness, as though life itself was slipping away. Villagers spoke in hushed tones about his ghostly figure seen wandering under the pale light of the moon, a reminder of the heavy price of betraying the old ways. Lucios's tale was often shared by the elders as a warning that seeking power above all else could lead to eternal suffering. Parents would tell their children, never seek magic for selfish gains, for Lucios walks the night, and he will take you with him. Even the bravest Celtiberians left offerings at crossroads and avoided traveling alone at night, hoping to keep Lucios's spirit at bay. The stories of cursed figures and spellbound souls lingered thick in Celtiberian folklore, and at the heart of many of these tales were witches and sorcerers whose powers defied explanation. It was said that a sorceress named Elda lived high in the cliffs and could control storms. She could be seen, cloaked and wild-haired, her voice carrying on the winds as thunder rolled across the sky. The people feared her wrath, for she could summon rains or droughts, deciding the fate of entire harvests. Her anger was a force of nature itself, and to cross her was to bring upon oneself the fury of the heavens. Elda's story is one of strength, loneliness, and power. She had once loved deeply, but after losing her beloved to war, she withdrew from the world, channeling her sorrow into magic. Her heart turned to stone, and from that day, she trusted no one. But there were nights when villagers swore they could hear her weeping, her sorrow woven into the very winds. Some claimed that during storms, if you listened closely, you could hear her voice calling her lost lover's name. The storms that gathered around Elda's cliffside were both feared and pitied, for her power was vast, yet it came from a heart that could never heal. Another tale that sent shivers through Celtiberian firesides was that of Malka, known as the Witch of the Weeping Wood. She was feared for her power to summon shadows that could walk through dreams, turning them into nightmares. Those who crossed her risked nights filled with visions of fear and sorrow, haunted by shadows with cold, piercing eyes. Malka's past was a mystery, but it was said she had been betrayed by those she loved and cursed them in her anguish. Her curse became a thing of legend, for it was not just her betrayers who suffered, but all those who disrespected her wood. Malka's story was one of bitter vengeance, but also a caution against betrayal. Her forest, thick with twisted trees and dark mist, became known as a place of haunting beauty, where you could lose yourself to both the wonders and terrors of the world. Those brave enough to enter her wood brought offerings of wildflowers or whispered words of respect, knowing that without her favor, they would never find their way out. And those who were foolish enough to mock her name, they were said to be lost forever, their voices carried on the wind, joining the strange, echoing cries that haunted the woods. Each figure, whether healer or hexer, cursed or powerful, played a part in the lives of the Celtiberians. Their stories were whispered through generations, a testament to the ancient magic and wisdom carried in their land. These witches, sorcerers, and cursed souls held a deep understanding of the world's mysteries, one that was respected and feared alike. Their powers served as a bridge between the living and the divine, a reminder of both the beauty and danger of wielding forces beyond human control. The Celtiberians knew that magic was not something to be trifled with. It was a force as natural and wild as the rivers and mountains that surrounded them, a power that could protect or destroy, depending on the heart of the one who wielded it. And so, they lived with both reverence and caution, their lives woven together with the tales of witches who could heal with a touch, sorcerers cursed to walk in sorrow, and spirits bound to ancient oaths. These legends lived on, a heartbeat beneath the soil, a shadow cast upon the hills, and a spark flickering in the depths of the forest, forever entwined with the lives of those who remembered them. When the night blanketed Celtiberia and stars shimmered in the sky like silent witnesses, the Celtiberians felt the presence of their ancestors more closely than ever. In those quiet hours, they knew that their fallen kin, those who had fought bravely, those who had loved and lost, and those who had walked the earth before them, were never far away. Every hillside, river, and grove held the memory of the lives once lived, the spirits of their ancestors woven into the land itself, as enduring as stone, as ageless as the stars. The Celtiberians believed that when a warrior or family member passed, their spirit did not simply vanish. It remained, tethered to the lives of the living, watching over the villages, guiding families, and protecting the land they had once defended. These spirits were not distant memories, they were constant presences that surrounded their kin with an unbreakable bond. A grandfather's laughter echoed in the calls of the birds at dawn, a mother's soothing touch lingered in the evening breeze, and the fierce bravery of a warrior stirred in the howling wind before a storm. For the Celtiberians, death was only a passage to a new existence, one that held its own kind of love, duty, and protection. To honor these ancestral spirits, rituals were woven into the fabric of daily life, gentle reminders that no one was ever truly gone. Offerings were made, small tokens of food, wine, or handmade items, placed near family hearths or sacred trees where the spirits were believed to linger. At the heart of each home was an altar, simple but sacred, where families could speak to those who had come before. Here, families would gather on special days, lighting candles and speaking softly, telling their ancestors of the year's harvest, of new births and marriages, or seeking guidance in times of uncertainty. This connection was not about asking for miracles, but about keeping love alive, bridging the gap between the world of the living and that of the departed. One of the most sacred acts was the lighting of the spirit fire, a flame that represented the eternal bond with the ancestors. When lit, it was a symbol of invitation, a warm glow calling spirits home. The fire was never left unattended, its light symbolized not only remembrance but protection. It was said that as long as the spirit fire burned, no harm could come to the home, for the ancestors' protective energy would shield it. Parents would pass the tradition down to their children, teaching them to care for the flame and the spirits alike, instilling a reverence that was as ancient as the stones they walked upon. But it was not only in homes where the spirits of the fallen were honored. Entire villages would gather for ceremonies to celebrate and remember the great warriors, the ones who had given everything for their people. These heroes were not forgotten, they became legends. Their stories were shared by storytellers around crackling fires, each tale preserving the memory of bravery and sacrifice. Warriors like Brenus the Unyielding, who stood alone to protect his tribe from invaders, or Marana the Fierce, who defended her village with nothing but a spear and her spirit of steel, lived on in every whispered story. Children were told these tales not just as stories, but as lessons in courage, loyalty, and pride. On the sacred nights of remembrance, families would visit the burial sites of their kin, carrying with them torches and offerings. It was a night filled with soft voices, with gentle steps over hallowed ground. As they walked through the mist, they would speak the names of their ancestors aloud, believing that by calling their names, they could bridge the gap between the worlds for just a little while. The Celtiberians held a deep belief that as long as a name was spoken, the spirit remained close, its presence a soft whisper in the wind, a warm touch in the chill of night. One story told of a young Celtiberian woman, Iona, whose brother had fallen in battle. Each year, she would bring a piece of his favorite bread, carefully baked just as he liked it, and place it by his grave. She would sit and speak to him as though he were beside her, recounting the stories he had missed, laughing and crying all at once. She knew he could hear her, she could feel his hand resting on her shoulder, a soft, almost imperceptible warmth that gave her comfort. On one particularly cold night, she claimed to have felt his cloak draped over her shoulders, shielding her from the chill. Whether truth or legend, her story was told to remind others of the strength and closeness of their bond with the departed. The Celtiberians knew that spirits could also be troubled, lingering in restlessness if they had left the world with unfinished matters or unmet justice. Families, therefore, made it a duty to appease and honor the spirits, so they would rest peacefully. If a death was sudden, unjust, or dishonorable, rituals were held to cleanse and soothe the spirit, giving it a sense of peace that allowed it to watch over the living without sorrow or anger. A village elder, someone seen as wise and close to the spiritual world, would lead these ceremonies, speaking to the spirit in a language known only to those with the gift of sight, ensuring the spirit found tranquility in its place among the ancestors. To the Celtiberians, ancestral worship was not a duty born out of fear, but out of love and gratitude. The spirits were protectors, sources of wisdom, and reminders that family extended beyond the boundaries of life and death. The warriors who had fallen in battle were believed to be particularly vigilant, standing guard over the land they had fought so hard to defend. During times of danger or war, it was said their spirits would gather at the edge of the village, shields raised and weapons drawn, invisible but felt by those they protected. Some warriors claimed to see their forebears in dreams before battle, giving them strength, guidance, and courage when it was needed most. As the living moved forward, each generation was bound by a silent promise to the spirits, to remember, to honor, and to live in a way that would make their ancestors proud. This promise was sealed with every flame lit in their honor, every story spoken around the fire, and every act of kindness done in their name. The spirits, in turn, gave their guidance, their strength, and their silent blessings, keeping the heart of Celtiberia beating strong across the ages. They were more than memories, they were guardians, eternal witnesses to the lives they had once led and the family they would forever cherish. The forest whispered ancient secrets, its leaves rustling like the voices of long-gone ancestors, while the caves held stories in their shadows. For the Celtiberians, these places were more than just parts of the landscape, they were sacred, imbued with a powerful magic that connected the living with the spiritual world. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow through the trees, the air thickened with an energy that felt both thrilling and comforting. Here, in these sacred groves and shadowy caves, the boundary between worlds blurred, inviting those brave enough to seek the mysteries that lay within. Caves were considered the womb of the earth, places where life began and where souls returned after death. Dark and cool, they served as natural sanctuaries, offering shelter from storms and a quiet place for reflection and worship. Families would gather at the mouth of these caves to share stories, offer prayers, and leave tokens of their love, small carvings, flowers, or pieces of food, gifts meant to honor the spirits they believed dwelled within. As they entered, the damp earth and rocky walls seemed to cradle them, making each person feel like a part of something much larger than themselves. Inside, the echoes of their voices mingled with the stillness, creating a sacred chorus that resonated through the chambers. One particularly beloved cave, known as the Cave of the Moon, was said to be a portal to the heavens. It was here that legends claimed the moon goddess, a figure of beauty and mystery, would descend to meet her followers. People traveled from distant lands to pay homage, lighting candles and incense, hoping to catch a glimpse of her luminous presence. Children, with wide eyes, would sit close to the entrance, listening to their elders recount tales of how the goddess had blessed the land with bountiful harvests and peaceful nights. These stories filled the air with wonder, weaving dreams of possibility into the fabric of their lives. The Cave of the Moon became a symbol of hope and connection, a reminder that there was more to life than what met the eye. Forests, too, held a sacredness that stirred the soul. They were seen as living entities, breathing with an energy that pulsed through the roots of ancient trees. The Celtiberians believed that each tree was a guardian, standing tall and proud, watching over the land and its people. The groves served as gathering places, where tribes would come together for rituals, celebrations, and to honor the changing seasons. Beneath the thick canopy, sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating a tapestry of light and shadow that felt otherworldly. In these sacred groves, a spirit known as the Green Mother was revered. She was believed to embody the essence of nature, nurturing and protective. It was said that during the spring equinox, she would dance among the flowers, awakening the earth from its slumber. Villagers would gather, adorned in vibrant colors, to celebrate her return with songs, laughter, and feasting. The air would fill with the scent of blooming flowers and freshly baked bread, mingling with the sound of joyful voices. Together, they would chant her name, honoring her for the life she brought forth. As they danced, they could feel the earth vibrate beneath their feet, a reminder that they were part of something eternal. Among the legends of the forests, one story spoke of a sacred tree that held the power to grant wishes. Known as the Wish Tree, it stood alone in a glade, its branches heavy with emerald leaves and colorful blossoms. It was said that if someone approached with a pure heart and a genuine desire, they could whisper their wish into the bark and feel it carried away by the wind. Many had come, some in tears, seeking healing or guidance. Others sought love or fortune. Each time a wish was made, the tree would shimmer ever so slightly, as if acknowledging the hope that filled the air. This tree became a symbol of dreams, a place where aspirations intertwined with the magic of the universe. The caves and groves were also places of meeting, where tribes would gather to share knowledge and stories, fostering a sense of community and belonging. Under the canopy of stars, they would sit in a circle, the fire crackling in the center, casting warm light that danced on their faces. Elders would share wisdom, recounting the triumphs and struggles of their ancestors. Children, mesmerized by the tales, would sit wide-eyed, soaking in every word as if it were a precious treasure. On the longest night of the year, a gathering called the Night of the Ancestors was held. The tribes would come together in a sacred grove, lighting torches and placing offerings at the foot of the ancient trees. As night fell, they would share stories of their loved ones who had passed, inviting their spirits to join the festivities. Laughter and tears mingled in the cool air, a beautiful reminder that both joy and sorrow were part of the same journey. Under the watchful eyes of the trees, the living and the dead danced together, bridging the gap between realms, united in love and remembrance. In times of struggle, when the shadows felt particularly heavy, the Celtiberians would retreat to these sacred places, seeking solace and guidance. The cool darkness of the caves provided refuge from the chaos outside, allowing for quiet reflection. People would sit alone or in small groups, allowing their thoughts to flow like the gentle stream nearby, seeking answers in the stillness. Often, the very act of being present in these sacred spaces brought clarity and peace, as if the earth itself listened to their worries and soothed their hearts. In this profound relationship with the caves and groves, the Celtiberians found their place in the world. They understood that these natural wonders were not just locations on a map, but living entities that connected them to the earth, their ancestors, and the very essence of life. The caves echoed with the voices of the past, while the forests thrummed with the pulse of the present. Together, they wove a tapestry of connection, resilience, and love that would carry the Celtiberians through the trials of existence, reminding them that they were never truly alone. The magic of the land lived on in their hearts, as vibrant and enduring as the stories that would be passed down for generations to come. In the quiet corners of the ancient Celtiberian landscape, where the whisper of the wind carries the stories of ages long past, stand the magnificent remnants of temples, stone circles, and altars. These structures, weathered by time but still standing tall, speak of a people deeply connected to their gods, the earth, and each other. As the sun rises and casts its golden rays upon the stones, one cannot help but feel the pulse of history echoing in the air, inviting all to listen to the tales woven into the very fabric of these sacred sites. Temples once bustled with life, the heart of community and worship. There were places where families gathered, united in their beliefs, offering prayers and sacrifices to the gods who watched over them. Inside, the scent of burning incense mingled with the sounds of whispered prayers, creating an atmosphere thick with reverence. Here, under the watchful eyes of stone deities carved from ancient rock, the people poured out their hopes, fears, and gratitude, believing that their words would be carried up to the heavens. One such temple, known as the Temple of the Sun, was said to be a gateway between worlds. Legend spoke of the sun god who would descend each dawn, bathing the earth in light and warmth, a reminder of the cycle of life. Villagers would gather here at sunrise, their faces illuminated by the first light, singing songs of praise. As the sun rose higher, the golden rays danced upon the stones, and it felt as if the very spirit of the sun was present, embracing them in its warmth. In this sacred space, hearts filled with hope and a sense of unity blossomed, connecting them not only to each other but to the cosmos itself. Stone circles, too, dotted the landscape, each one a testament to the Celtic reverence for nature and the universe. These circles were not merely rocks placed in a pattern, they were living monuments, symbols of the connection between the earth and the stars. It was said that during the summer solstice, the spirits of the ancestors would gather in these circles, their whispers mingling with the rustling leaves. People would come from miles around to join in the celebration, bringing flowers and food to honor their forebears. Under the vast night sky, they would dance and sing, feeling the weight of their ancestors' love surrounding them like a warm embrace. At the heart of one famous stone circle, known as the Circle of Stars, stood a massive stone that seemed to glow under the moonlight. Legends told of a powerful priestess who would climb this stone at midnight to commune with the stars. It was believed she could see visions of the future and communicate with the spirits of the sky. The villagers would gather below, holding their breath in awe as she danced, her silhouette framed against the shimmering night. With each movement, they felt the energy of the universe pulse through her, connecting them all in a shared moment of magic and wonder. Ancient altars scattered throughout the landscape served as vital gathering points for rituals and ceremonies. These altars, often adorned with flowers, stones, and offerings, were where the sacred met the everyday. On special occasions, families would come to the altars to present their gifts, be it freshly harvested crops, handmade crafts, or simple tokens of appreciation. The act of giving was a deep expression of gratitude and faith, a way to acknowledge the blessings of the earth and the gods. One of the most revered altars was known as the Altar of the Harvest. It was said that during the harvest festival, the spirits of the land would come alive, dancing in the golden fields. Villagers would gather around the altar, their hearts filled with joy as they offered the first fruits of their labor. With laughter and song, they celebrated the cycle of life and the sustenance that the earth provided. The air was thick with the aroma of baked bread and sweet fruits, and the joy of the community echoed in every corner. Children would run through the fields, their laughter blending with the songs of the elders, creating a symphony of life and love that resonated in their hearts. But it was not just the rituals that brought life to these sacred places. The legends associated with them created a rich tapestry of meaning. Stories of great heroes who had visited the temples or stood in the stone circles became woven into the daily lives of the people. Each retelling sparked imagination and inspiration, ensuring that the wisdom of the past continued to guide the present. One such story was that of a young warrior named Ilario. It was said that Ilario sought the blessing of the gods at the Temple of the Sun before heading off to battle. In his heart, he carried the hope of his people, and he prayed for strength and courage. As the sun rose that day, its rays seemed to shine brighter, illuminating the path ahead. The villagers watched as he set forth, believing that the light of the sun would guide and protect him. When he returned victorious, Ilario's tale became part of the fabric of their community. The people gathered at the temple to celebrate, lighting candles and sharing stories of his bravery. With each telling, the story grew, becoming not just a memory but a living part of their culture, inspiring future generations to stand strong in the face of adversity. The stones, the temples, and the altars were more than mere structures, they were a reflection of the Celtiberian soul. Each crack in the stone told a story, each worn surface a memory of prayers whispered and hopes shared. As the seasons changed, these sites witnessed the passage of time, holding the laughter of children, the tears of sorrow, and the warmth of love. The beauty of these sacred places lay in their ability to evoke a sense of belonging, weaving together the threads of history, faith, and community. They served as a reminder that, even in the face of life's challenges, the spirit of the Celtiberians lived on through their stories, their rituals, and the enduring love they shared with one another. As twilight enveloped the landscape, casting a soft glow over the ancient stones, a sense of peace settled over the land. The whispers of the past intertwined with the hopes of the future, creating a timeless bond that would continue to echo in the hearts of those who remembered. The temples, stone circles, and ancient altars stood as proud witnesses to a legacy that would never fade, forever capturing the spirit of a people who cherished their connection to the divine and to each other. In the heart of ancient Celtiberia, where the forests whispered secrets and the rivers sang their songs, the Druids held a sacred place in society. These wise figures were more than just spiritual leaders, they were the bridge between the seen and unseen, the earthly and the divine. Their presence was felt in every corner of the community, guiding the people with wisdom that resonated deep within their hearts. When the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the land, it was often said that the Druids could be found under the ancient oaks, their voices blending with the rustle of leaves as they shared stories of magic and the cosmos. The Druids possessed knowledge that seemed to transcend time itself. They understood the rhythms of nature, the changing of the seasons, and the signs of the stars. With their long robes flowing like the rivers, they moved with a grace that echoed the dances of the spirits. Villagers would come to them seeking guidance, hoping to unlock the mysteries of their lives. The Druids listened with patient hearts, their eyes reflecting the depth of the world around them. They knew that each person carried a story within, and by sharing their wisdom, they could help others find their way. One powerful legend spoke of a Druid named Aisling, whose gift for prophecy was renowned throughout the land. Aisling was said to have a connection to the spirit world, able to see beyond the veil that separated the living from the dead. People traveled from distant villages, bringing offerings of fruits and flowers, seeking her guidance. They would sit around a flickering fire, the night sky filled with stars, and listen as she spoke. Her voice was like music, weaving tales that captured their imagination and stirred their souls. On one fateful night, a young warrior approached Aisling with a heavy heart. He was torn between love for his homeland and the desire to seek adventure beyond its borders. With a gentle smile, Aisling looked into his eyes and began to share a vision she had seen. In her dream, the warrior stood at a great river, the waters sparkling in the sunlight. He was not alone, a beautiful maiden stood beside him, her hair flowing like the river itself. Together, they faced great challenges, but their bond was unbreakable. As the warrior listened, he felt a warmth spreading through him, filling him with courage and hope. Aisling's words were like a balm for his troubled spirit, igniting a fire within him. With gratitude in his heart, he left the Druid's side, ready to embrace the journey ahead, knowing that love and destiny awaited him. The Druids were also guardians of ancient knowledge, keepers of traditions that had been passed down through generations. They held sacred ceremonies that honored the land, the ancestors, and the gods. Each ritual was a dance of unity, drawing the community together in a celebration of life and nature. Under the watchful gaze of the stars, they would gather at sacred sites, their voices rising in harmony, echoing through the valleys. The villagers felt a sense of belonging, woven together by the shared experience of reverence and gratitude. One legend spoke of a great festival known as the Gathering of the Stars, where druids from all corners of Celtiberia came together to share their wisdom. The air was filled with laughter, song, and the aroma of feasting. People of all ages participated, their hearts open to the magic that surrounded them. The Druids spoke of the importance of balance in nature, of respecting the spirits that inhabited the land. Children listened wide-eyed, their imaginations ignited by tales of brave heroes and powerful deities. As the night deepened, a powerful Druid named Callum took center stage. With a commanding presence, he shared stories of the celestial bodies, weaving their significance into the lives of the villagers. He spoke of the moon's cycles, the sun's strength, and the stars as guides for the journey of life. The crowd hung on his every word, their hearts swelling with pride as they realized they were part of something much larger than themselves. Among the Druids, there were those who were known as seers, gifted individuals who could glimpse into the future. One such seer, named Celine, was revered for her ability to interpret dreams. Villagers would come to her, seeking insight into their lives. Celine would listen intently, her eyes shimmering with understanding, and then share her visions. On one particular night, a woman visited Celine, trembling with uncertainty. She had lost a loved one and feared that darkness would swallow her whole. Celine took her hands and closed her eyes, allowing the visions to come. The woman saw a field of wildflowers, vibrant and alive, filled with laughter and love. Celine described how the love of her lost one would always be with her, like the warmth of the sun on a chilly day. When the woman left, she carried a piece of Celine's light within her heart, feeling less alone in the world. Druids were also intimately connected to the land, believing that every tree, river, and mountain held its own spirit. They taught the villagers to honor these spirits, to seek their guidance in times of need. The practice of giving thanks became a cherished part of life. When the crops were harvested, offerings were made to the earth, and gratitude was expressed for the bounty provided. The land responded with abundance, as if in recognition of the love shown by its people. As the years passed, tales of powerful druids and their magical deeds became woven into the very fabric of Celtiberian culture. These stories were passed down from parent to child, each retelling infused with the warmth of shared memories and lessons learned. The people knew that the druids were not just figures of the past, their influence lived on in every moment of connection, every prayer offered, and every song sung under the stars. The legacy of the druids endures in the hearts of the people, a reminder of the power of wisdom, love, and community. In times of uncertainty, they would recall the stories of Aisling, Callum, and Celine, drawing strength from the knowledge that they were never truly alone. Even today, as the sun sets behind the mountains and the stars twinkle in the night sky, the spirit of the druids can be felt. They remind us that we are part of a greater story, one that connects us to each other and the world around us. The magic of their teachings continues to inspire, urging us to listen to the whispers of the earth, honor the past, and embrace the future with open hearts. High above the valleys, where the clouds caressed the rugged peaks, the mountains stood tall and proud, guardians of ancient secrets. In the heart of Celtiberia, these colossal formations were more than mere rock and stone. They were living beings, imbued with stories and magic that spoke to the souls of the people. The mountains towered over the land like wise elders, their craggy faces etched with the passage of time. They held within them tales of love, sacrifice, and the eternal bond between nature and humanity. Legend spoke of a hidden valley known as Anwen, a mystical place concealed from the eyes of the world. It was said that only those with pure hearts and unwavering faith could find the way to this enchanted sanctuary. Anwen was believed to be a paradise where flowers bloomed in colors unseen, and the air was filled with the sweetest songs of birds. The valley shimmered under the sunlight, reflecting a beauty that seemed too perfect to be real. Many had sought Anwen, driven by dreams and whispers of its wonders. Among them was a young girl named Lyra, whose heart was filled with a longing to find the hidden valley. She had grown up listening to her grandmother's tales of its beauty, and each story sparked a fire within her. One evening, under the glow of the setting sun, she decided to leave her village and seek the valley for herself. With her trusty companion, a loyal dog named Cian, they set off, following the winding paths that led into the mountains. As they ventured deeper into the wilderness, the air grew cooler, and the trees whispered secrets among themselves. The towering peaks loomed overhead, their rocky surfaces glistening in the fading light. Lyra felt both excitement and fear as they climbed higher, every step bringing her closer to the legendary sanctuary. Cian, sensing her determination, barked cheerfully, encouraging her to keep going. Together, they pushed forward, driven by the hope of discovering something magical. After days of searching, exhaustion began to weigh on them. Just as despair threatened to creep in, they stumbled upon a narrow path, barely visible between the brambles and rocks. Lyra's heart raced with hope. She remembered her grandmother's words, "Trust your heart, for it knows the way." With renewed determination, they followed the hidden trail, winding between the trees and over small streams, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath their feet. Then, as if the mountains themselves were guiding her, Lyra saw it, the entrance to Anwen. The valley opened before her like a dream, bathed in golden light. It was more beautiful than she could have ever imagined. Flowers of every hue danced in the gentle breeze, and a crystal-clear stream sparkled as it wound its way through the landscape. Lyra and Cian stood in awe, breathless at the sight before them. It was a moment that felt like pure magic, a moment when the world stood still. As they stepped into the valley, they felt an overwhelming sense of peace wash over them. The beauty of Anwen was not just in its appearance, but in the very essence of life that flowed through it. Every blade of grass, every flower, and every bird seemed to sing a song of joy and unity. Lyra knelt beside the stream, cupping her hands to drink from the cool water. In that moment, she felt a connection to something greater than herself, a bond that transcended time and space. Days turned into weeks as Lyra and Cian explored the hidden sanctuary. They discovered glades filled with laughter and joy, where the spirits of nature danced among the trees. Each night, as the stars twinkled above, Lyra would sit beside the stream, sharing her dreams and fears with the valley. In return, Anwen whispered its secrets to her, filling her heart with wisdom and love. But as the seasons changed, so did Lyra's understanding of the valley's magic. She realized that the beauty of Anwen was not meant to be hoarded or kept a secret. It was a gift to be shared, a reminder of the bonds that unite all living things. She knew she had to return to her village and tell the stories of what she had found, to bring back the hope and magic that had filled her heart. With a heavy heart, she bid farewell to Anwen, promising to return. As she climbed the mountains once more, she felt a deep sense of gratitude. The valley had shown her the beauty of life, the strength of love, and the importance of sharing those gifts with others. Back in her village, Lyra shared her story with everyone. She spoke of the hidden valley and the magic that flowed through it, inspiring her fellow villagers to cherish the beauty of their surroundings. They began to honor the mountains and valleys, recognizing them as sacred spaces filled with spirit and wisdom. The villagers gathered in the evenings, sharing their own stories and dreams, building a community that thrived on love and connection. The mountains, once distant and aloof, became a source of strength and unity. Families would hike up to the peaks, leaving offerings of flowers and songs to the spirits of the land. They celebrated the changing seasons, honoring the cycles of nature, and finding joy in the simple moments of life. As the years passed, the legend of Anwen spread beyond the village, reaching far and wide. People traveled from distant lands, drawn by the stories of the hidden valley and the magic that resided within it. Each visitor brought their own dreams and hopes, and in return, they received the valley's gifts of wisdom and love. The mountains watched over the valley and its people, their rocky faces a testament to the enduring spirit of nature. They became a symbol of resilience and strength, reminding everyone of the importance of connection, to each other, to the land, and to the magic that exists in the world. Lyra's heart swelled with pride as she witnessed the transformation of her village. The spirit of Anwen thrived in their lives, a reminder that beauty and magic are often found in the simplest moments. She knew that the hidden valley was not just a place, but a way of being, a celebration of life and the bonds that tie us all together. Even as the seasons turned and the years passed, the legacy of Anwen remained alive in the hearts of the people. They would always cherish the mountains and valleys, the sacred spaces that held their dreams, their stories, and their love. In the quiet moments, when the wind whispered through the trees and the stars twinkled in the night sky, they would remember the magic of the hidden sanctuary and the journey that brought them home. The gentle rush of water, the soft whisper of the breeze, and the shimmering sunlight dancing on the surface of the river have a way of speaking to the heart. The Ebro River, winding through the land like a silver ribbon, was more than just a body of water. It was a lifeline for the people who lived along its banks. To them, the river was a sacred being, a source of life and mystery, cradling their hopes and dreams within its currents. From the very beginning, the Ebro held a special place in the hearts of the Celtiberian people. They believed that the river was inhabited by powerful water deities who watched over the land and its inhabitants. These deities were not just figures in stories, they were guardians, nurturing spirits that provided sustenance and protection. The Celtiberians revered these water goddesses, offering prayers and rituals to honor them, believing that their blessings would ensure a bountiful harvest and safe travels. One of the most cherished legends told of a water goddess named Ibrona, the spirit of the river itself. Ibrona was said to be a stunning woman with hair like flowing water and eyes that sparkled like the brightest stars. She was both fierce and gentle, embodying the duality of the river. With her caress, she nourished the fields and filled the hearts of the people with joy. But when angered, she could unleash a torrent, reminding everyone of her power and the need for respect. Each spring, when the snow melted in the mountains, the people gathered by the banks of the Ebro to celebrate Ibrona's awakening. This festival was filled with laughter, music, and dance, as families came together to honor the goddess who sustained them. They wove colorful garlands from flowers, and with every petal, they whispered their wishes to the river. The sweet sound of flutes and drums echoed through the valley as they offered their thanks, believing that their gratitude would be met with Ibrona's favor. One year, a terrible drought gripped the land. The fields turned brown, and the crops withered under the unforgiving sun. The people prayed to Ibrona for relief, but the river remained low, its banks cracked and dry. Desperation settled in, and fear spread among the villagers. Would their beloved river abandon them? In their time of need, a young girl named Mira felt a deep calling. She had always felt a special connection to the river, as if Ibrona whispered secrets to her in the flow of the water. Determined to seek the goddess's aid, Mira ventured to the riverbank alone. She knelt at the edge, tears streaming down her face, and poured out her heart. "Please, Ibrona," she begged, "I know you are listening. We need you. We cannot survive without you." Mira closed her eyes and listened. In the silence, she heard a soft voice, almost like a breeze flowing through the trees. "Have faith, dear child. You must show the people the way." Inspired by the goddess's words, Mira stood up with newfound strength. She ran back to the village, her heart pounding with excitement. Mira gathered the villagers and urged them to come to the river. She shared her vision of a great ceremony to honor Ibrona, a celebration that would not just be filled with joy but would also include acts of kindness and respect toward nature. The villagers, touched by her passion, agreed to join her. They began to prepare for the event, collecting offerings of fruits, flowers, and crafted tokens to present to the goddess. On the day of the ceremony, the sun rose bright and clear, casting a golden glow over the Ebro. The air was filled with a palpable sense of hope as the villagers gathered at the riverbank. They sang songs of gratitude and love, their voices rising to the heavens. Each family stepped forward to place their offerings into the water, watching as the fruits and flowers floated away, carried by Ibrona's gentle current. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm light over the scene, something miraculous happened. The waters began to ripple and swirl, and a figure emerged from the depths. It was Ibrona, her beauty captivating and ethereal. The villagers gasped in awe as she approached, her presence radiating warmth and light. "My dear children," she spoke, her voice like the softest melody, "you have shown great love for me and for each other. Your faith has awakened my spirit." As she gestured with her hands, the river swelled, the waters rising higher and higher until they embraced the banks once more. The sound of rushing water filled the air, a joyful symphony echoing through the valley. Tears of relief streamed down Myra's face as she watched the Ebro come alive again. The river flowed with renewed vigor, sparkling under the moonlight. The people cheered, their hearts overflowing with gratitude and joy. Ebrona had heard their cries, and she had returned, filling their lives with hope once more. As the days passed, the river continued to swell, nourishing the fields and bringing life back to the village. The crops flourished, and the drought was a distant memory. Myra, now a beloved figure among the villagers, reminded everyone of the importance of honoring the river and the water spirits. The celebration of Ebrona became an annual tradition, a time when families gathered to give thanks and share stories of the goddess's blessings. Over the years, the Ebro became a symbol of resilience and unity for the people. They understood that the river was more than just a source of water, it was a living entity that needed respect and care. The villagers would often gather along its banks, sharing laughter and stories, reinforcing their bond with the river and with one another. As the sun set behind the mountains, casting a golden hue across the water, the Ebro reflected the beauty of the land and the spirit of its people. It served as a reminder that no matter how challenging life may be, there is always hope in the flow of water, always a way to reconnect with the earth and its sacred spirits. In the hearts of the Celtiberians, the legend of Ebrona lived on, a timeless tale of love, faith, and the powerful magic of the Ebro River. The sound of marching feet echoed through the valleys, shaking the very ground where the Celtiberians had thrived for generations. The Romans were coming, powerful and relentless, their armies sweeping across the land like a storm. To the Celtiberians, this invasion was not just a military assault, it was an attack on their way of life, their beliefs, and their very identity. The air was thick with fear and uncertainty, yet from the heart of this turmoil rose a fierce spirit of resistance. As the Roman legions advanced, villages and towns braced themselves for the worst. The skies turned gray, mirroring the dread in the hearts of the people. They gathered in their homes, whispering tales of the great heroes and deities that had once protected their land. The stories were powerful and filled with the strength of their ancestors, weaving a tapestry of courage that would not be easily forgotten. In the midst of this fear, a legend began to take shape. It was the tale of a brave warrior named Viriato, a shepherd who became a symbol of hope and resistance against the Roman forces. His name was spoken with reverence, a beacon of light in the darkness. Viriato led the Celtiberian tribes in a relentless fight against the invaders, using his cunning and bravery to outmaneuver the disciplined legions. He became a living legend, embodying the strength and unity of his people. As the Romans pushed deeper into Celtiberia, they faced fierce battles. The stories of Viriato and his warriors filled the hearts of the Celtiberians with fire. They fought not just for their land, but for their families, their traditions, and their gods. Every time they stood against the Roman army, it was more than just a fight, it was an act of defiance that echoed through the ages. Each clash of swords rang like a battle cry, a reminder that they were not easily broken. Yet the Romans were relentless. With each victory they claimed, they sought to erase the Celtiberian way of life, attempting to replace it with their own. They built roads and cities, imposing their beliefs and customs. But in the shadows, the spirit of resistance flickered like a flame, refusing to be extinguished. The stories of bravery and defiance were passed down from generation to generation, whispered in the quiet of the night, igniting the hearts of the young and old alike. Celtiberian shamans played a vital role in preserving these legends. They gathered around sacred fires, sharing tales of Viriato and other heroes who fought valiantly against the invaders. Their words were like spells, weaving a powerful magic that connected the people to their past. They reminded everyone of the ancient gods who watched over them, instilling hope in their hearts. Each story told by the fire rekindled the memories of resistance, fortifying the spirit of the people. Despite the overwhelming might of the Romans, the Celtiberians fought on, finding strength in unity. The villages that had once been fearful became bastions of hope. Men and women, young and old, stood together, each one ready to defend their homeland. They believed in the stories of their ancestors, drawing courage from the legends that had been passed down through the ages. The Romans were met with fierce resistance, and their attempts to conquer Celtiberia became a saga of struggle and resilience. Each skirmish was a testament to the spirit of the Celtiberians. The brave warriors who stood against the invaders were not just fighting for their land, they were preserving their way of life, their beliefs, and their identity. The Romans were not merely conquerors, they were the embodiment of a threat that sought to erase centuries of history. As the years rolled on, the tides of war shifted. The Romans, though mighty, could not fully extinguish the flame of resistance. The stories of defiance and rebellion lived on in the hearts of the Celtiberians, flourishing like wildflowers in a rocky landscape. In every child's bedtime story and every gathering of families, the legends of Viriato and other heroes echoed through the generations. With each passing year, the legends grew richer, morphing into a tapestry of triumph and tragedy. The Celtiberians sang songs of their heroes, their voices rising to the heavens, echoing through the valleys and mountains. In these songs, the stories of bravery and resistance were immortalized, blending the past with the present. The spirit of Viriato became more than just a memory, it became a living part of the Celtiberian identity. Despite the Roman conquest, the heart of the Celtiberian people remained unyielding. They transformed their pain into pride, their losses into legends. The Romans may have controlled the land, but they could not conquer the spirit of the Celtiberians. The invaders would learn that their conquest came at a cost. Each warrior who fell in battle became a part of the story, a thread woven into the rich fabric of resistance. Even after the smoke of battle cleared and the dust settled, the Celtiberians continued to honor their heroes and their history. They created monuments in secret, paying homage to those who had fought bravely. Every stone was a reminder that the spirit of resistance would never die. The stories lived on, carried through whispers, songs, and the hearts of those who refused to forget. In the hearts of the Celtiberians, the legends of their ancestors continued to inspire hope and resilience. The Roman conquest, though a significant chapter in their history, could never fully erase the tales of bravery and resistance. The Celtiberian spirit, like the mighty rivers and ancient mountains, would endure, flowing through time, reminding future generations of the sacrifices made for their freedom and identity. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the ancient lands of Celtiberia, stories began to weave through the air like threads of smoke rising from a sacred fire. These tales carried the weight of history, whispering the heartbeats of a people intertwined with the land, their gods, and each other. But as the tides of time flowed, these legends faced the challenge of transformation. The Celtiberian myths, rich with valor and ancient wisdom, began to merge with the stories of the Romans, Christians, and others who came after, creating a tapestry of belief that reflected the changing world. When the Romans arrived, bringing their culture and deities, the Celtiberians found themselves at a crossroads. Their gods, once revered as protectors of the land, stood alongside Roman figures, creating a strange yet fascinating blend. Temples dedicated to Mars, the Roman god of war, rose near sacred sites of Celtiberian deities. In the flickering shadows of these temples, whispers of stories changed. The brave deeds of Viriato, the shepherd-turned-warrior, took on new layers, merging with the tales of Roman heroes. The spirit of resistance still flickered fiercely, but now it wore a new face, one that reflected the complexities of conquest and survival. In the villages, old women gathered around fires, their faces illuminated by the glow, recounting the legends of their ancestors. They spoke of fierce battles against the Romans, but also began to include tales of how their gods had blessed them with strength and courage. These stories evolved, reflecting the realities of their existence, while honoring the past. The warriors became more than just fighters, they transformed into symbols of resilience, embodying the spirit of the land that refused to yield. The merging of beliefs created a space where the Celtiberian identity could endure, even amidst foreign influences. As Christianity took root in the heart of the Celtiberian landscape, another wave of transformation swept through the ancient legends. The tales of the old gods began to intertwine with Christian narratives, creating an unexpected harmony. The Christian missionaries arrived, bringing their message of love and salvation, but they also encountered a rich tapestry of belief that could not be easily dismissed. The Celtiberians, ever adaptive, began to see parallels between their deities and the Christian saints. Some legends depicted the Virgin Mary as a nurturing figure akin to the mother goddess of old, and local saints adopted the attributes of ancient spirits. The stories of the land took on new meanings. The sacred groves and mystical caves, once places of worship dedicated to ancient gods, became sites for Christian ceremonies. The spirits of nature, once feared or revered, were now interpreted through the lens of faith, reshaping the relationship between people and their environment. The powerful imagery of eagles and wolves blended with the symbols of Christian faith, creating a unique fusion of beliefs that spoke to both the old and the new. The once isolated narratives began to flow together, enriching each other as they adapted to the changing world. But as time wore on, this integration did not come without pain. The old ways faced the threat of being forgotten, and the hearts of the Celtiberians grew heavy with the weight of their history. Elders, who had been the guardians of ancient tales, feared that the essence of their culture would fade in the shadow of new beliefs. The stories that had once united them now risked being overshadowed by the growing influence of Christianity. Yet, amid this uncertainty, a fire still burned within the hearts of the people. In secret gatherings, families continued to tell their stories, holding tight to their identity. They recounted tales of brave women, like the legendary warrior queens, whose strength inspired generations. These figures began to take on new significance, merging with the images of strong female saints. The courage of the past now resonated with the teachings of compassion and resilience found in Christianity. The myths adapted to reflect the values of a society that was constantly evolving, but the spirit of the Celtiberian people remained unwavering. Through all the changes, the Celtiberian myths transformed, yet they never lost their essence. The stories of giants, trolls, and fearsome creatures adapted, blending with the folklore of other cultures. They became allegories that spoke of the human experience, of love and loss, struggle and triumph. The legends were no longer confined to the old ways, they expanded, becoming more accessible to all. As new tales were woven into the fabric of the existing mythology, the people found a sense of belonging in their ever-changing world. This adaptability also led to a resurgence of interest in the past. As generations passed, the Celtiberian myths were collected and preserved, transforming into a rich heritage that would not be forgotten. Scholars and storytellers began to recognize the importance of these tales, bringing them back into the light. The myths of the Celtiberians, intertwined with those of the Romans and Christians, created a rich, layered narrative that spoke to the strength and resilience of a people who had weathered countless storms. As the years turned into centuries, the Celtiberian legends continued to evolve, transcending time and space. The stories became a bridge connecting the past to the present, reminding everyone of the values that had been passed down through generations. In the hearts of the Celtiberian people, the integration of myths was not a loss, it was a testament to their enduring spirit. They celebrated their history while embracing the new, creating a vibrant cultural identity that was both ancient and modern. Today, the echoes of those ancient stories still resonate in the valleys and hills of Celtiberia. The merging of legends serves as a reminder that, while change is inevitable, the essence of a people can endure. The myths, enriched by time and experience, continue to inspire hope and strength. They remind everyone that their stories, no matter how transformed, are the threads that bind them together in a tapestry of shared history and identity. In the heart of Spain, beneath layers of earth and history, lies a treasure trove of secrets waiting to be uncovered. Each artifact, each site tells a story of the Celtiberian people, echoing their lives, beliefs, and struggles through the ages. These remnants of the past hold the whispers of ancient hearts, revealing a culture rich in tradition, spirituality, and resilience. As archaeologists carefully excavate these sacred grounds, they unearth more than just objects. They find pieces of a once vibrant tapestry woven with myths and legends. The remarkable discovery of the burial mounds scattered across Celtiberia provides a glimpse into the beliefs of a people who honored their dead with great reverence. Inside these mounds, artifacts like weapons, pottery, and intricate jewelry speak of a society that valued both beauty and strength. The very act of burying their dead with such care shows a deep connection to the spiritual realm, a belief that the journey did not end with death. One of the most moving finds comes from the city of Numancia, famous for its fierce resistance against the Roman conquest. Here, remnants of ancient structures rise from the earth, alongside inscriptions carved into stone. These inscriptions serve as powerful reminders of the courage and defiance that defined the Celtiberian spirit. Words etched in time echo the sentiments of warriors who fought valiantly for their homeland, expressing a longing for freedom that resonates through the centuries. Each carving serves as a testament to their identity, reminding future generations of the strength that lies within their heritage. As the sun sets over the ruins, the shadows dance along the walls, and it's easy to imagine the warriors who once walked these paths. They carried not only weapons but also the weight of their ancestors' stories, each a flickering flame igniting the courage within them. These archaeological discoveries invite us to hear those stories, to feel the heartbeat of a culture that faced overwhelming odds yet stood firm against the tide of history. The artifacts found in Celtiberian tombs often tell tales of their daily lives, revealing the customs and practices that shaped their world. A delicate piece of pottery might display intricate designs, reflecting the artistry and creativity of a people who found beauty in their surroundings. The presence of everyday items like tools and utensils reveals a connection to the earth, a gratitude for the resources that sustained them. Each piece adds a layer to our understanding, painting a picture of a society that was both practical and profound. Among these artifacts, the bronze and iron weapons discovered in various sites tell tales of warriors prepared for battle. These items evoke images of fierce skirmishes, the clash of swords ringing through the valleys, and the cries of brave souls fighting for their home. They remind us of the sacrifices made, the lives lost, and the unwavering spirit that refused to be extinguished. Every weapon recovered carries a story, a memory that fuels the flames of pride in their descendants. In the sacred groves and forests where rituals took place, the remains of altars offer a glimpse into the spiritual practices of the Celtiberians. Scattered throughout these sites are stone circles and altars, remnants of a time when nature was revered and the elements were honored as divine. The discovery of offerings left at these sites, such as coins, food, and small figurines, tells of a deep-seated belief in the power of nature and the spirits that inhabited it. Imagine a group of villagers gathering under the ancient trees, their voices rising in song, prayers woven with the rustling leaves. They would have felt the warmth of the sun on their skin and the earth beneath their feet, knowing they were part of something greater. These moments, preserved in time through archaeological evidence, allow us to feel that connection, even across centuries. Inscriptions on stone tablets provide further insight into their beliefs and practices, revealing a rich tradition of storytelling and oral history. The words carved into these stones speak of gods and goddesses, of sacred animals and cosmic events that shaped their understanding of the world. They remind us of the deep relationship between the Celtiberians and their deities, of how these figures guided them through the trials of life. The gods were not distant. They were woven into the very fabric of existence, a comforting presence in times of joy and sorrow. As we piece together these fragments of the past, we begin to understand the profound respect the Celtiberians had for their ancestors. The act of honoring the fallen was not merely a ritual, but a lifeline connecting the living with those who had come before. The spirits of the departed were believed to watch over the community, offering guidance and protection. In this belief, there was strength, in remembrance, there was resilience. Every artifact, every site discovered allows us to reflect on the Celtiberian spirit. It stirs emotions deep within, a sense of pride and belonging, reminding us that we are all part of a continuum. The Celtiberians faced their challenges with unwavering determination, leaving behind a legacy that continues to inspire. Their stories, engraved in stone and captured in the remnants of their daily lives, bridge the gap between past and present. In this rich tapestry of history, archaeology plays a crucial role in keeping the memories alive. Each excavation brings forth not just material objects, but also the emotions, the dreams, and the struggles of a people whose essence continues to resonate. As we stand on the soil that once cradled their hopes and fears, we are reminded that their legacy lives on, woven into the very fabric of our own identities. As the sun sinks lower in the sky, casting a golden light across the landscape, the spirits of the Celtiberians seem to stir once more. Their stories, once buried beneath layers of time, rise to the surface, vibrant and alive. Through the lens of archaeology, we honor their journey, ensuring that their voices will never be forgotten. Each discovery adds to the rich narrative of a people who once thrived, reminding us that their spirit, like the earth from which they came, endures, waiting to inspire generations yet to come. In a world filled with bustling cities and the rush of modern life, whispers of ancient legends are beginning to surface once more. Celtiberian stories, once tucked away in the folds of time, are experiencing a vibrant revival. It's as if the winds have carried the tales of these brave warriors and mystical beings through the ages, gently urging us to listen. The heart of Spain and Portugal beats a little stronger as these narratives find new life, weaving their magic into the fabric of contemporary culture. Imagine walking through a lively marketplace where artisans proudly display their crafts, each piece telling a story rooted in the past. The colors of handmade textiles catch the light, vibrant reds and greens reminiscent of the earth and forests where the Celtiberians once roamed. Here, the spirit of the ancients can be felt in the air, inspiring modern creators to tap into the rich heritage that surrounds them. The legends of these ancient people have become a source of inspiration, their themes of bravery, love, and sacrifice resonating deeply with those who long for a connection to something greater than themselves. Local festivals are emerging, celebrating the stories and traditions of the Celtiberians. Communities gather in joyful celebration, sharing stories around fires that crackle and pop, just as they did in ancient times. The flickering flames cast dancing shadows on faces illuminated by excitement. Children listen wide-eyed as elders recount the epic tales of fierce battles and heroic figures, reminding them of their roots and the strength that flows through their veins. Each story told stirs emotions and ignites a sense of pride in their heritage, creating a bridge between generations. Art, too, has become a canvas for this resurgence. Painters and sculptors draw inspiration from the Celtiberian legends, creating stunning pieces that honor their culture. In galleries, one might find a sculpture depicting a legendary warrior standing tall, sword raised high, embodying the spirit of resistance against the Roman conquerors. The eyes of the statue seem to glimmer with defiance, inviting viewers to reflect on the struggles and victories of those who came before. Such artworks breathe life into forgotten stories, ensuring that they remain vivid and alive in the collective memory of society. The realm of literature has also been touched by this revival. Writers are weaving tales infused with the essence of Celtiberian folklore. Novels and poetry echo the bravery of those ancient warriors, capturing the hearts of readers who yearn for stories filled with adventure and magic. These narratives often blend historical facts with fantastical elements, transporting readers to a time where the lines between reality and myth blurred seamlessly. With every turn of the page, the heroes and heroines of the past become companions on a journey through the trials of love, loss, and triumph. Music, too, carries the sound of the Celtiberian resurgence. Traditional instruments like the bagpipes and flutes resonate through the air during folk festivals, filling hearts with a sense of nostalgia. Modern musicians are embracing these ancient melodies, infusing them with contemporary rhythms, creating a sound that celebrates both the past and the present. As the notes swirl around the listeners, they can almost hear the laughter and songs of the Celtiberians echoing through the valleys. This revival of sound is a testament to the enduring spirit of a culture that continues to inspire, bridging the gap between time and space. Even in the realm of cinema, the stories of the Celtiberians have found new life. Filmmakers are exploring the epic battles and rich mythology that once defined this people, crafting narratives that resonate with modern audiences. Visually stunning scenes bring to life the struggles of a people defending their land, with breathtaking landscapes as the backdrop. Viewers find themselves transported to a time of bravery and sacrifice, connecting with the emotions of the characters who fight for their homeland. Each film serves as a reminder that the essence of these ancient tales can still touch the hearts of those who watch, inspiring a new generation to remember and honor their history. As the legends of the Celtiberians seep into the very core of contemporary Spanish and Portuguese culture, a powerful sense of identity is being forged. The people are reclaiming their heritage, not as a distant memory, but as a living, breathing part of who they are today. In schools, educators are teaching children about their ancestors, introducing them to the values of courage, community, and respect for nature that were so central to Celtiberian life. This knowledge plants seeds of pride and understanding in the hearts of the young, ensuring that the stories will not fade into obscurity. In small villages, community members are banding together to restore ancient sites, honoring the land that once belonged to their ancestors. As they clear away the brush and debris, they are not just uncovering stones, they are uncovering a sense of belonging and connection to their past. This act of reclamation is a powerful reminder that the roots of their identity run deep, intertwining with the very earth beneath their feet. Each stone unearthed is a piece of history that connects them to their forebears, reinforcing the notion that they are not alone in their struggles and dreams. This modern resurgence is more than just a revival of stories, it is a testament to the resilience of the Celtiberian spirit. In a world that often feels disconnected from its roots, these legends remind us of the power of storytelling and the importance of remembering where we came from. The tales of valor and sacrifice resonate with everyone who longs for connection, illuminating the path for those who seek to understand their own place in history. As the sun sets, casting a golden hue over the landscape, the stories of the Celtiberians continue to unfold, wrapping around the hearts of those willing to listen. With every passing day, their legends grow stronger, echoing through the valleys and mountains, inviting all to embrace the rich tapestry of their culture. The modern world may seem fast-paced and chaotic, but in the quiet moments, one can hear the whispers of the past, urging us to remember, to celebrate, and to honor the brave souls who came before us. The Celtiberian spirit lives on, vibrant and alive, reminding us that we are all connected, woven together by the stories that shape our lives. In a quiet moment, when the world pauses just long enough to catch its breath, the echoes of ancient stories seep into the air. These tales, woven into the very fabric of European folklore, tell of brave warriors, mystical creatures, and the bond between humanity and nature. The Celtiberian myths stand out in this tapestry, their colors vibrant and rich, offering wisdom and wonder to those willing to listen. The legacy of these legends is more than just historical, it is a living spirit that continues to inspire and captivate hearts today. Long ago, in the rolling hills and misty valleys of Celtiberia, stories were born. Tales of fierce battles and powerful spirits danced around campfires, creating a sense of unity and identity among the people. Each legend served as a reminder of their strength, their connection to the land, and their resilience in the face of adversity. These stories were not merely entertainment, they were lifelines, threads that bound communities together, passing down essential values from one generation to the next. As the centuries unfolded, the Romans swept through, changing the landscape of Celtiberian life forever. Yet, even amid conquest, the spirit of the Celtiberians endured. Their myths and legends were not erased, instead, they transformed and adapted, merging with the new tales introduced by their conquerors. The stories evolved, woven into the rich tapestry of European folklore, leaving a mark that would ripple through the ages. The names of ancient warriors and wise women echoed in the halls of history, whispering their truths to those who sought them. Today, the influence of Celtiberian myths can be felt far beyond the borders of Spain and Portugal. They resonate through the stories of the Celts, the tales of bravery and adventure that captivated the hearts of many. The themes of honor, sacrifice, and the struggle against overwhelming odds are universal, allowing these legends to transcend time and culture. The Celtiberians' connection to nature, their reverence for the land, and the spirits that inhabited are echoed in countless myths across Europe. These stories remind us of our shared humanity and the enduring power of storytelling. Every child who listens to tales of valiant knights and mystical creatures is touched by the echoes of the Celtiberian spirit. In the heart of Ireland, where the ancient stories of warriors and fairy folk flourish, the spirit of the Celtiberians can be felt in the stories told around the hearth. The bravery of the Celtiberian warriors resonates with the tales of the legendary heroes of the Celtic lands, who fought for their people, their beliefs, and their freedom. Each story carries a thread that connects back to the legends of those who walked the valleys of Celtiberia, forging a legacy that is both powerful and profound. Even in the realm of literature, the shadow of Celtiberian myths can be seen in the works of modern authors who draw inspiration from these ancient tales. Fantasy novels often echo the struggles of the Celtiberians, portraying heroes who stand against overwhelming forces, embodying the courage and resilience that defined their ancestors. The allure of these stories captivates readers, inviting them into worlds filled with magic, adventure, and the timeless battle between good and evil. Each page turned breathes life into the ancient legends, allowing the spirit of the Celtiberians to rise anew in the hearts of modern readers. Art and music, too, bear the imprint of these enduring tales. Painters and musicians draw from the well of Celtiberian folklore, creating works that reflect the beauty and mystery of their myths. The landscapes of Celtiberia, with their rolling hills and ancient trees, inspire countless artists, infusing their creations with a sense of magic and wonder. In the melodies of folk songs, one can hear the echoes of ancient stories, sung by generations who honor their heritage and keep the legends alive. The rhythms of the music resonate with the heartbeat of the land, connecting us to the past and reminding us of the stories that shaped our world. Festivals celebrating the rich tapestry of Celtiberian culture allow communities to reconnect with their roots. Gatherings filled with laughter, music, and storytelling breathe life into the myths, bringing people together to honor their shared heritage. As the sun sets and the stars begin to twinkle overhead, the flicker of torches illuminates faces filled with joy and nostalgia. In these moments, the tales of ancient warriors and wise women live again, shared with pride and love. The sense of belonging, of being part of something greater, fills the air, creating bonds that transcend time and space. The Celtiberian legacy is not just a collection of stories, it is a profound reminder of the power of belief. The myths of these ancient people continue to inspire those who seek strength in the face of challenges. The courage displayed by Celtiberian heroes, their unwavering determination to protect their land and people, serves as a guiding light in a world often filled with uncertainty. Each tale is a call to action, urging us to stand up for what we believe in and to honor the spirits of those who came before us. In the stillness of the night, as the wind rustles through the trees, one can almost hear the whispers of the Celtiberian spirits calling out to us. Their legends continue to thrive, passing from one heart to another, reminding us of the power of our shared history. The allure of these ancient stories is not simply about the past, it is about the present and the future. They encourage us to embrace our identity, to celebrate our heritage, and to recognize the strength that lies within each of us. As we move forward in a rapidly changing world, the lasting impact of Celtiberian myths remains a touchstone, a source of inspiration that invites us to reflect on our place in history. These stories are more than just echoes of a distant past, they are threads that weave together the fabric of our collective human experience. The enduring allure of these legends transcends time, connecting us to the brave souls who walked the earth before us and reminding us that their spirit lives on in the tales we share today.